Welcome, everybody, to the Lithorati Podcast, Episode 3. I hope you're all joining us as repeat listeners, having been thoroughly entertained as much as I was with artist Arian Bueller's presence in the previous episode. But if you're new to the show, that's okay too. I'm glad to have you along for the ride. Feel free to check out our previous episodes when you have the time, however, since they're very entertaining, or at least I'd like to think they are. But we have you here now, so let's dive headfirst into this episode. As with every episode, we'll be sitting around chatting and reviewing the lithograph designs from the Guns N' Roses Not in This Lifetime tour, with this episode exclusively focusing on the 2017 shows in New Zealand, Australia, as well as the Southeast Asian countries of Singapore and Thailand. This particular leg also included a single stop in the United Arab Emirates, but unfortunately there was no lithograph sold for that show. So although it won't really be a review per se, we will briefly discuss Dubai and its ill-fated story of the lost lithograph. Tim will be joining us, as usual, a little bit later, once we hit our stride and start reviewing the lithographs. But before that, I would like to introduce another guest. Just like my friend E.T. stopped by and in the previous episode to share his Guns N' Roses thoughts and experiences with us. This time, I have another friend joining us all the way from Australia. He is a fellow Guns N' Roses diehard, and almost just as importantly, he is a fan of the artwork to come out of the tour. Terry, welcome to the show.
How are you, Rich? Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming along for the ride. Now, you and I have talked about Guns N' Roses and lithographs in general for countless hours over the years. And in fact, it was lithographs and specifically collecting them that we bonded over. That's how we became good friends. Actually, you were one of many people that sort of kept nudging me in the ribs, trying to get me to make this podcast. And ever since I made the decision to go ahead and try to pump these things out, I've been really looking forward to doing this particular episode. We'll get into several of those reasons as this episode unfolds, but first and foremost, I want our listeners to get to know you a little better.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to be on, mate. Pleasure to be on.
Excellent. Look, like our previous episodes, one of the things I've tried to bring to the Lithorati podcast experience is a sense of perspective by inviting onto the show a new guest each episode, a friend who went to one of the concerts and grabbed a lithograph from one of the shows on the particular leg we're focusing on for that episode. This episode, as I've mentioned, focuses on the shows in early 2017, spanning New Zealand, Australia, and Eastern Asia. And since a vast majority of shows on this leg were Australian shows, it felt only natural for me to invite an Australian friend on as this episode's guest. Really, really happy to have you on the show, Terry. It's not everyone's cup of tea, being a guest, but I am very, very happy you've agreed to be here.
Yep, not a problem.
Terry, you went to one of the shows on this leg of the tour, but more importantly, I think, is that you are Australian. You are our first non-U.S. guest, which really gets me excited because it gives a lot of U.S. fans, North American fans that are listening a different perspective. It gives the international Guns N' Roses fan base a voice. Guns N' Roses is a band with a very strong international following, and being able to hear what fans from other countries have to say, get their take on certain topics, I think that really broadens the scope of the show. So please tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your origin story? How did Guns N' Roses become part of your life?
Yeah, well, I first started listening to them, at the age of 12. I think it was when Sweet Child of Mine came out on the radio, and pestered my parents to get me the album Appetite for Destruction, and mate, the rest is history. It just steamrolled from there and have never looked back.
Now, I know that Australia played a role in the earlier Guns N' Roses tours. Were you lucky enough to get to see them back in the 90s?
No, I wasn't. I couldn't get over to the east. Obviously, they played Eastern Creek, and just didn't get the opportunity to go over there, which was quite disappointed. But I had to end up waiting until sort of the Chinese Democracy tour here, the first two that they had here, and then And then the Perth show with the original member, well, the three original members, that was really the highlight for me.
I should point out to people that, yeah, you're on the West Coast.
On the West Coast, yes, Perth.
And Guns N' Roses did not play in Perth back in the 90s. They only played over on the East Coast, which
exactly
a lot of people don't realize that, Australia is a really, really big country, and it's not particularly easy to head over to the other side of the continent to go see a show, especially back in the 90s,
That's right.
So yeah, I can feel your pain. I think I'd sort of understand a little bit the idea of being isolated from, the music that you love, the concerts that you want to go to. And that was actually one thing that I wanted to talk about. Generally speaking, I want to know from an Australian fan's perspective.
Yep.
What's it like being a live music fan, a concert fan in Australia? I mentioned earlier that Australia got a large proportion of the shows from this leg. We're looking at 6 shows in this leg, whereas New Zealand, they only got 2, and the rest of the countries, they each only got 1. But in the bigger picture, Australia generally gets screwed over when it comes to major music acts doing international tours, right?
Yeah, we do. And Perth very rarely will get 2 shows. I think the only, AC/DC always will put 2 shows on in Perth, obviously with that Bon Scott connection. But as for the the big international acts, we'll only get one all the time. And sometimes they don't even come to Perth. They only stay on the East Coast because logistically it's expensive to get everything here. So it sucks in some cases.
I'd certainly, I think not only is, Australia in general isolated from the rest of the Western world, but I don't know, I remember reading somewhere that like Perth is like the most isolated state capital in the world.
It is, yes.
You guys are like, not only like Australia's already isolated, but then you're like the isolated of the isolated. You guys are really, really far away from everyone else.
We're stuck in the West, mate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful place. I've
it is. It's
there.
Fantastic. It's a great place.
It's but I understand that it's a fact when it comes to tours. It's a factor of distance, and by extension of that, it's a factor of cost. Bands need to know that if they, go to the effort and expense of going all the way to Australia and New Zealand, that they're going to be able to line up a reasonable amount of shows, and that those shows are going to be either sold out or near max capacity to maximize profits.
Yeah.
But like you said, there's bands that will go to the effort of going all the way to Australia and New Zealand, but then not necessarily go over to Perth, over to the West Coast and grace you guys with a couple of shows.
That's right.
That's got to be, that's got to be heartbreaking.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. It really puts a downer on a tour that comes over and doesn't come to Perth. I mean, back to the Velvet Revolver days, myself and my wife actually went to Adelaide. They had Perth actually scheduled, and whether it was ticket sales, not really sure, but that got cancelled in the last minute. And like I said, myself and my wife flew over to Adelaide so we could attend the concert, so we could go and see them. But
I was just about to ask whether you'd bitten the bullet and made the effort and paid the expense to actually go over to some of the Eastern shows. If you're getting screwed out of going to see bands that you love, not coming, essentially not coming to Perth, do you find yourself regularly, or at least sometimes, buying an expensive ticket to head over east and maybe, I'm guessing, hotel costs as well and all those assorted expenses? Have you done those? Have you done that over the years?
Yeah, I've done it. Like I said, did it with Velvet Revolver, did it with Ozzy Osbourne because there was no way he was ever going to come to Perth. So did the trip over to Sydney to see them, and not really much else.
The arenas or the venues that are available in Perth, I mean, they're all like fairly large venues, right?
Oh, they are. You've got the RAC Arena that can hold, I think, about 17,000, maybe more, obviously, on the floor. And then you've got the new stadium, which can geez, you could probably get 100,000 in there.
Wow. See, that's what I don't understand is that they've got the potential to have a very, very profitable concert. And I would think that if it's a big name like you said, Ozzy Osbourne or Guns N' Roses, that I would have thought they'd be able to justify the expense and the time and all that to make the trip over to the West Coast. And if it's sort of on a knife edge in terms of making money, are you trying to tell me that you wouldn't be able to sell tickets to 2 nights or 3 nights if they'd gone to the effort of going all the way to the West Coast?
Yeah, you'd think they would. You'd think they would. Like Guns N' Roses, I wish they had played a second show, because the first show at Subi was sold out. And, I think they scaled it down a little bit, but, there was mixed reviews whether, ticket sales were bad and that, but being there at the actual show, it looked pretty sold out to me.
There seems to be fans that are in both camps. That there's fans that obviously they're a little tight on money, and just because there are 2 shows on consecutive nights, they may not necessarily be able to justify the expense of buying a second ticket for the second show and all that. But still, I find it surprising that, especially for isolated cities, I'm kind of surprised that they don't do back-to-back shows more often.
That's why we're so grateful when bands come and we get to see them. It's, I'll be there the first day the ticket sale comes out and I'm grabbing it.
There's such a disparity, because at the end of the day, there's American fans that America gets 50 or 100 shows over the course of this tour. And that tour spans a couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, depending on the band. And Australia, it seems like, 6 shows on this leg seems like quite a healthy amount for Australia. But then when you sort of amortize that over, a 4-year tour, 6 shows doesn't sound like much at all.
No, that's right. That's why the US, the fans, mate, they don't know how good they've got it over there. It's to have that dream of, being able to go to a gig every week or every weekend would be amazing. Well,
sometimes more than that. Both you and I, we've got friends in the Guns N' Roses fan base that have gone to, 4 shows in a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did the calculations a while ago, looking at the international countries that got Guns N' Roses concerts for this Not in This Lifetime tour. And I think Germany, over the course of those 2 consecutive European legs, 2017, 2018, I think they got 6 shows in total. Japan, they got, 5 shows. And then Australia got 6 shows. They got a healthy amount, but then, when they've got multiple legs in Europe and multiple legs in South America, it still pales in comparison to the number of shows that they get in North America.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Now the Australian show that you went to in Perth, that was clearly not your first Guns N' Roses show.
No, well, that was not. Well, it was with the original members. The 3 original. But then going back to your previous question of have I travelled, seeing other bands, I mean, Guns N' Roses, I've seen them, Jakarta. It was Jakarta, Taiwan, Hong Kong, then in Wichita. So that you could probably add those to the list of travelling, concerts I've been to and travelled.
And that's actually yet another comparison. We're obviously, we're talking about Australia getting a raw deal when it comes to the amount of concerts that they get, but they're not even at the bottom of the list. You mentioned going to Indonesia, going to Taiwan. These are places that they get one show. An entire country gets one show, maybe 2. You would have been able to meet some of these fans in other countries and see, they've got an even more distressed, more desperate sort of take on things. I remember talking to some South African Guns N' Roses fans at the Johannesburg concert,
Yep.
And some of them had waited their entire lives for Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses had planned to play Johannesburg back I don't remember what year it was, but I know it was during the Chinese Democracy Tour.
Okay.
And, that I'm thinking maybe 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere around there. But if I'm not mistaken, that was also around the time that Tommy Stinson, broke his wrist, or he hurt his wrist or something, and they ended up canceling. They didn't end up playing that Johannesburg concert. Yeah, so up until that show in 2018, Guns N' Roses had never played South Africa and hadn't played anywhere really close to them either. So I was surrounded by 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds, 60-year-old fans getting to see their favorite band for the first time in their entire lives. It must be a surreal experience. Yeah,
definitely, and that's why I think fans like that, and then to get that taken away, it's not very pleasant. Hanging out to go and see a show.
Yeah, I just couldn't imagine the heartbreak if if you've waited for years, your entire life to see them, for them to come to where you live, and then for it to be sort of taken away from you. That would be heartbreaking to say the least.
Definitely. And going back to the first shows that I did see, Guns N' Roses, not really with your Duff or Slash, it was just Axl. I didn't really get into. I've got into Chinese Democracy now a lot more than when it first came out. Obviously still went out and bought the album, and because just got a huge admiration for Axl as a singer and his stage presence and all that. But it just didn't seem like the Guns N' Roses that I knew. So it was a bit of a downer those first few shows, but then that's why getting to go to Perth, with the three original members, it was just amazing.
So, talking about impact, are there any important moments in your life where, Guns N' Roses had a particularly strong impact?
Oh, mate, that's quite easy. When I went to Hong Kong, actually, one of the gigs fell on my birthday. And mate, I was on the rail, my birthday, and then the highlight was I actually got Duff's wristband at the end. So, mate, I don't think anything could top that.
I think you're in a group of very select fans that have been able to attend a Guns N' Roses show on your birthday. I've been to quite a lot of shows, but none of them ever fell on my birthday. There's a couple that were close, but close isn't as good, and I know that you went to both Hong Kong shows.
Right. Yes.
And clearly only one of them fell on your birthday. The other, it being close, it still wasn't the same. Just being able to go see them on your birthday, I would imagine that would be an amazing experience.
No, it was fantastic. And like I said, to get Duff's wristband at the end of the show, it was...
That's pretty special, right?
Mate, it was amazing. It was something that you couldn't even dream of.
I think that's the icing on the cake for you. That not only was Hong Kong a very, both of those shows were amazing shows, and I'm pretty sure both of them were at least 3 hours, right? Like at that stage of the tour, nearly every night they're playing 3+ hours.
Yeah, that's right. And the highlight too was the stage was so low. So,
Oh, really? Yeah.
Was really, really low. Whereas Taiwan, you couldn't see the other side.
I think a lot of North American fans, like generally speaking, there's the stages that they build in the U.S., they're all roughly around the same height. But then once you start going to the international shows, there can be a huge discrepancy. They can be super, super low, or they can be ridiculously high.
Oh, yeah, exactly. That was Taiwan, was ridiculously high.
I remember the show in, I think the highest stage that I've seen at a show that I went to on this leg was probably Abu Dhabi. That show at the Formula One, or after the Formula One race.
Yeah, okay.
I was up at the rail, and I was cranking my neck up. It felt like 90 degrees. It felt really, really strange. It sort of almost felt like maybe they should have put the rail maybe 20 feet farther back. It didn't feel quite right. And I sort of understand it, like if you look at it all depends on the arena and the way that the sections are designed, you sort of want the stage to be up high, so people that are sort of way out standing at the back of the standing section can still see the band. And with Abu Dhabi, the standing section was, it's essentially a field in front of the stage. So it sort of made sense, but at the same time felt off for probably the front, I would say front 10% of the crowd. It would have felt really, really too high. But yes, you're very lucky. You were able to go to a concert on your birthday. That was something that I was maybe looking forward to this year, but unfortunately, the show that would have been on my birthday this year has been canceled, and so
that sucks.
I guess I'll just have to keep my fingers crossed that the shows next year or in following years that maybe one of them falls on my birthday. And it was going to be a good show too. I don't know what your personal feeling is on Hong Kong, but if I had gone to the show on my birthday this year, it would have been one of the London shows. And
that would have been fantastic.
I thought that I would have thought that would have been pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A little bit sad about it, but at the same time, I've been blessed to be able to go to a whole bunch of shows. So that's maybe a sign from the powers that be that maybe I should save my money and spend it on something else in 2020.
You're definitely a well-travelled Gunners. What's the word? You're definitely well-travelled anyway, seeing a lot of shows.
In hindsight, I probably went overboard, but at the same time, if I had the chance to do it all again, I don't think I'd do it any other way. In fact,
no, that's right. It was worth it, right?
Oh, 100%.
100%.
In fact, I went overboard, but at the same time, if I had a chance to do it all again, there's equal chance that I may have tried to find a way to go to even more shows. Like we mentioned previously, a large percentage of the shows from Not in This Lifetime were in the U.S. And I don't know, for me, I went to some of the U.S. shows, but I find the international shows a little bit more appealing. I don't know why. I know that there's certain things that the North American shows get that some of the other shows in other countries might not get. I think that Axel talks a little bit more, interacts a little bit more with an American audience, or at least with an English, natively English-speaking audience. I think that in some countries, like, let's say, for example, Japan, there's a little bit less talking because maybe the band aren't entirely comfortable with the idea of the fans being able to understand what the hell they're yapping on about. But even not just that, but I know that some fans, when they went to their shows in their particular country, they didn't get the pyro. That some of the songs have got the pyro effects. For whatever reason, whether it was just that they weren't able to organize a pyro company to help them do the pyro, or whether their own pyro clearly I don't know. I don't know what the logistics of it are, but I'm assuming that they're not able to fly with pyrotechnics in on the plane.
Yeah,
so I'm guessing that every time that they do it, that they've got to find a local company to do it. So yeah, some countries the shows don't have pyro, and I think that a vast majority of the U.S. shows get it. One of my sort of enduring memories of some of the U.S. shows, or all the shows in general, one of the most memorable is seeing November Rain, like Slash's solo at the end where they've got that
That's
fire
fantastic,
curtain.
isn't it? Yeah, behind him.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I've taken a couple of photos of that moment, and I think that they look absolutely magnificent.
Yeah, you're right.
However, there's concerts where they not only do they not get that, but if you are a fan that only goes to that particular show, you may not realize that you're missing out on a more, what I think is a more amazing experience. Clearly, the most important thing of it is the performance itself, but it's those little things that can really sort of, it's a little thing that adds a lot.
Oh, definitely, 100%. And I mean, they do it well, Gunners. They, with the introduction at the start to the backdrop and the themes for the songs, it's amazing.
I'd really like to see McBob come back and actually do the live intros.
Yes.
I know that it's his voice that sort of introduces the band on the recording, but it's still a recording. And I don't know when. I think they must have changed that in. I'm trying to remember now. Europe 2017. I know that in Japan and with the Australian shows in 2017, McBob was doing the live intros.
He was, yes.
He made that mistake, right? He accidentally he mixed up Melbourne and Sydney.
That's right.
And he got a bit of a boo there. And I'm wondering. It was definitely sometime soon after that they fell back to doing the intro as a recording, and I think that
as a recording, yeah,
you lose a little something when it goes to that recording. Fingers crossed if McBob or any of the crew or the management involved listen to this, if there's any way that I can convince them to go back to McBob doing a live intro, assuming that he still wants to do it. I think that would be a really, really awesome tiny modification that you could make to make the concerts even more special.
No, definitely.
Okay, well, look, thank you so much for sharing a little bit of your backstory with us.
It's my pleasure.
Maybe we should head into the thick of it and maybe do some lithograph reviews. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm keen.
Okay, so I guess we're all here to discuss some lithograph designs, so let's just go ahead and dive headfirst into them. As usual, I've got Tim along for the ride. Tim, how are you?
Pretty good, man. How was everyone? Coming to you from Seattle. Yeah, doing well.
Yeah, let's get the ball rolling. The first one we've got up is from New Zealand, Wellington. We've got the Wellington Maori design. Tim, how do you feel about this particular design?
Well, I like it a lot, actually. I think the color scheme especially is you don't really see that with a lot of the GNR lithographs, and so it's kind of unique in that respect, I guess. Also, it was with the classic misprint, or if you want to call it that, or misspelling of February there. Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
I think we all like that. But I think it was a great way to incorporate, the culture and history of the area into a lithograph. I think it's one of the better examples of that, actually. It's another one of those lithographs that breaks that barrier, that barrier that goes around the lithograph, that red and brown line. It goes outside of that. So it's another example of that. It's another example of crossing over into the Guns N' Roses headline, if you want to call it that, or whatever the top part where it says Guns N' Roses. The feathers are kind of like interlacing with the letters,
which I think is cool, by the way.
I think so too, actually. Right, and it's kind of weird in that the border goes longer vertically than it does. You see what I mean? Like at the top, there's like that little black border that goes beyond the brown line, and at the bottom, right? But not on the sides, right? It's kind of interesting. It's kind of weird. And then I don't know, you see like in the background of this thing, you've got that circular. I don't know if that's supposed to be like a snake skin. You see what I mean? Like on the left hand side, you can see it. On the right hand side,
I think I'm not full bottle on Maori culture, but I just assumed that it was some sort of just a tribal design of some sort.
That's what I was wondering, if it was that or snake. I was kind of wondering. No, yeah, I like it a lot, man.
Excellent.
This is a killer one. I know for everyone listening, if you have the T-shirt for this, there's someone on the podcast with you right now who's looking for that. So let them know about it.
Look, I don't think I've ever hidden the fact that this design is one of my favorites. I think it's very well executed and the colors work really, really well. I think I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the concept of a restricted color palette. Like the designs that that use different shades of the same 2 or 3 colors feel a little more refined, a little more focused. I know some other people really like the colorful designs, but you can have a colorful design, but still sort of restrict the colors to a small subset of the entire color spectrum. And so yeah, I because of that, I think that's one of the enduring features of this particular design. I kind of don't really understand why this design isn't more popular, to be honest. I have some Australian and New Zealand friends who don't find it anywhere nearly as great as I do, and they don't like it because they think the theme is too obvious, which I will admit is true. I mean, I think if you rounded up all the New Zealand concert poster designs in existence, like over time, I would guess maybe 49% of them are Maori themed, 49% are probably like Kiwi themed, and the rest are, I don't know, maybe hobbits or sheep or something. There's not too much diversity when it comes to New Zealand poster themes, but for me, if you're going to go with a Maori theme, then you would want it to look like this. The only shame to me is, like you mentioned before, the tiny typographical error at the bottom, and that the merchandise staff weren't very careful handling them. Nearly all the Wellington Maori lithographs have kind of rough edges, which actually, come to think of it, isn't entirely the fault of the staff. This design is one of the few designs that was done with a black background, but printed full bleed, right to the edge of the paper. And since it was printed on white paper, you're printing a black background on white paper, any tiny nick on the edge of the lithograph is going to show up very, very easily. So personally, you know what? I would have preferred to have seen this design printed on black paper. I think that would have been very, very cool in my opinion.
That would have been really rad, actually, and I hope they kind of take that idea into account for future lithographs, and not just for GNR, but any band. Because, right, if you, instead of printing the black on it, if you could just print it on black paper, or whatever color you're using for whatever design you're going for, that's just a lot cooler, and it looks a lot better, right?
I think it would look cooler, especially if it was like a screen printed design. It would give the design a lot more texture, a lot more of a, I wouldn't say a 3D feel to it, but it would feel more like a genuine sort of screen print poster than like a lithograph or a giclée. But you mentioned there the strange sort of not perspective, but the fact that it's got these long sort of wide black borders at the top and the bottom. I kind of feel like that's probably I think that's a result of the fact that this design, like all of the designs, I'm pretty sure originally started their life as a 4:3 ratio design, like all of the 18:24 designs that are usually done. But for New Zealand, all of the designs have got a metric ratio. They're A2, which is slightly longer than 4:3. So I guess that if you probably sort of like cut the design at that brown border at the top and the bottom, it would be more along the lines of 4:3 and more along the like the standard 18:24 design. But I'm guessing maybe it was a limit or a restriction imposed by the printing options that they had in New Zealand or in Australia, that they could only, or it was easier to print it on A2 size paper, and so that's why it's got that sort of extended feel to the top and the bottom of the design.
I see. All right.
Okay. Well, next up on the chopping block, we've got the Wellington Kiwi, the blue-footed kiwi, I suppose. This design is just insane to me. I don't get it at all. I mean, yes, we've got a kiwi theme, and that clearly makes sense, but everything else about it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. You've got a kiwi with blue legs for some reason. It has its spine and its rib cage on the outside of its body for some reason. The lake behind it is purple for some reason. What the hell is going on? I mean, even like when I was doing my notes for this particular design, I realized that the little wings or the little arms on the kiwi, I mean, even the gesture the bird is making with its wings, it's like it's saying, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Now, it's a shame because like I love the artist. I feel like Tim Butler should be doing more designs, but this one don't get it. I'm sorry. It's too bizarre for me. What do you think?
Totally agree. And first of all, I see what you're saying again, but about the borders again on the top and bottom. Same example here, right? Yep. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. A very well, and for part of my ignorance, and I should have maybe researched this before we started talking about it. But I mean, do kiwis have blue legs? I mean,
no, they don't.
Right? Or,
no.
Okay, right. And
there are birds. Don't get me wrong.
For that matter,
there's birds with blue tongues and there's birds with blue feet, but
right.
Not the kiwi.
And you're right. The whole skeleton thing, I can't really understand. Like, because there's also feathers like flying off of it. So maybe like something scared it. Maybe they're trying to argue that like, hey, Guns N' Roses is coming to town, and it scares the kiwi, or so. I don't know what he was going for here. But even if you scared the kiwi, you wouldn't scare it into its skeleton system coming outside of it or whatever. Like I don't get it. And you're right. Yeah, I never noticed that about if that's supposed to be water behind it, or if that's supposed to be like a gray bluish rock along with other mountains in the back.
Well, maybe it was. Maybe it's a rock.
But maybe not. You know what I mean? Hard to know. And yeah, it's yeah.
All right. Well, look, I suggest we maybe leave it at that. We leave that design behind us, and let's just check out the next design. Which is unfortunate. I should say that because the next design is almost a carbon copy, right?
Yeah, and once again, like I just mentioned, I don't know that much about kiwis, but what's interesting about this one, okay, the feet and the beak and everything are, different colors, and even the feathers, I guess, are a little darker brown. But what's interesting, its head or whatever and neck are turned the same way as the other one. Do kiwis have this? Do they have this stance a lot? Is that what they do? I don't know.
I don't know. That's why it was really strange to me to see two of these designs essentially one show after the other. And not only is it the same theme, but it's the same sort of design, right? It's the same structure. It's the same
right. I mean, ultimately
composition.
It is right. Bueller redeemed himself by spelling February correctly this time, so that's good, right? Not just messing with them, But and also, I don't know if kiwis are carnivorous or attack people or not, but maybe they are. I don't know, right?
Well, they're certainly not that size. I'll tell you that much. Look, I sort of get this one. I sort of get it, but it's still kind of surreal to me, kind of bizarre. It seems very similar to the Tokyozilla design that Arian Bueller did. The kiwi is designed to look like some sort of giant killer monster, I suppose, like a New Zealand version of Godzilla or something.
And the font for Guns N' Roses reminds me of the Godzilla one.
Yeah,
right.
But it feels like it's missing something. I can't quite put my finger on it. I'd hazard to say it feels unfinished. It feels like if you added one more element, whatever that element is, I'm not quite sure. But if you added just some other thing to the design, it could maybe bring it all together. But as is, it's just not quite there for me.
Yeah, I agree. Like, there's something quite off about it, right? And I kind of wondered when I was looking at the for a split second, I kind of hoped, like, the skulls that you see on the bottom there. I was thinking to myself, are they actually giving credit to everyone in the band there by having more than just 3 skulls, right? But then I saw there's 8 skulls and there's only 7 people in the band, right? So at least unless I'm doing my math incorrectly here, so I don't know who the 8th skull would be, but it was probably just I don't think he was referencing the band at all. Just hoping.
No, I think it's just, I think that'd be wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Well, look, that's actually kind of that's short and sweet. That's all we have for New Zealand. Only 3 designs. Next up is a trip across the Tasman Sea to Australia, with the first lithograph up being the Brisbane Purple Surfer. When I first saw this design, along with the other Brisbane design that we'll talk about, we'll get to it eventually, I think it was actually a couple weeks later. Like, at this stage, I hadn't yet decided to collect any other lithographs other than the Japan designs, I think. So I wasn't hanging on to every concert day to see what the next design was going to look like. But when I did finally see the design, I kind of admit it felt a little underwhelming. Like, at the time, definitely didn't have an eye for the designs, and so I sort of took one glance at it, and I didn't have an immediate urge to want it or to own it or anything. You know, I'm not a surfer. I've never been into surfing, so that theme obviously wasn't going to blow me out of the water to begin with. However, that being said, I have grown to love the design, even more so the T-shirt. Now, most
don't get it started, man.
I know this is a sore spot for you, and I apologize, but when I was doing the notes for this design, the more I realized that I actually had quite a lot more to talk about. For most people, you know, most people know that with the event shirt, the lithograph shirt, you know, the shirt with the lithograph design, which used to be on the front, there's usually some sort of litho-related design or some sort of flourish or some sort of text on the back of the shirt. Usually it's just the date and the location of the concert written in a typeface or a font or some sort of design similar in theme to the lithograph. But occasionally there's a lithograph-themed picture that sort of goes along with it. If you remember the Los Angeles 2016 design, the San Diego surfer design, the corresponding T-shirt to that San Diego surfer design had like a little picture, a little drawing of some surf wax on the back of the shirt.
Yep.
And that had the date and the location of the particular concert. And these little, I don't know what to call them, like little doodles or little flourishes or whatever, I think they can be pretty cool. They've sort of disappeared now that the T-shirts or the event shirts have got the designs on the back, and all you really get on the front now is a little breast pocket area variant of the Guns N' Roses logo. I'd like to see them sort of go back to having that sort of little doodle or little flourish on the back of the shirts. And a lot of them are very, very cool. For this Brisbane shirt,
it's awesome. Yeah.
The design on the back of the shirt is really fucking cool. It's an Australian panel van, which is iconic. It's a very iconic vehicle for Australia. It's parked on the beach with, you know, this skeleton holding its arm out the driver's side or the passenger side window for Australia, flipping off the bird. And there's a coffin-shaped surfboard leaning up on it. I don't know. I just thought this was a really, really cool design. If the two, this got me speculating. Like, this is like me with 2020 hindsight, wondering, what could have been better? You know, how could it have been done better? For me, when I was thinking about it, if the two Brisbane, like if you're going to have two lithograph designs for Brisbane, if the two Brisbane designs had been the front of this shirt, or this lithograph and the back of the shirt, both in green and purple color, I think that would have made for a really fucking badass double set.
Oh yeah.
And then get this. This is me with my, you know, the cogs in my head slowly moving. Imagine on top of that. Imagine if this litho had been glow in the dark.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yep. Oh yeah.
Which had been my first thought when I saw the colors. When I first saw the colors of this, like when you see like a black design with green and also like purple or some sort of like bluish sort of color. At least for me, when I see those sort of colors, I think, oh wow, is this a glow in the dark design?
Yep.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not. But man, imagine if that would have made for a great pair of lithographs. Like I would, if that had been done, if those were the two available lithographs and they were glow in the dark, I would frame them and put them up on my wall instantly. Like that would make a cool sort of side by side. And I'm hoping I can find a good photograph of the back of the shirt that I can put up on the YouTube video for this podcast, so you know people don't have to search on Google to see what I'm talking about. But it is, yeah, it's such an underrated design that almost no one has seen, comparatively speaking, and it's only on the shirt.
Yeah.
And I think you can share with the audience why exactly this is a sore spot for you.
Definitely. Well, you know, first about the lithograph itself. One, I can't believe how dense I am that I never noticed that the surfboard was coffin shaped. I mean, how stupid do I have to be, right? So thank you for pointing that out.
No
That's
problem.
Really cool, actually. That's really cool. And so when I first saw this design, I gotta say, man, I think it's, sorry to curse, but to emphasize here, fucking stunning, man. Like, the colors, just everything about the shirt. I mean, this lithograph to me is amazing. The only thing I might have done, the middle finger that is, that the skeleton's given off. Don't get me wrong, I'm no prude or anything. I don't care if there's a middle finger or curse words or whatever, right? But maybe it would have been cooler if he was given like the metal devil horns or like the hang ten, like surfing kind of thing, right? Instead,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah.
right? But yeah, I just think it's killer, man, right? And yeah, everyone, Ricky's absolutely right. The T-shirt is incredible, and I gotta say, maybe this is gonna be controversial. I don't know, maybe rarer than the lithograph itself, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And maybe there's good reason for that because the design is killer, right? But I've always wondered if that was a hearse on the back instead of like a panel van. But interesting, I'm gonna have to look at it again. But
No, it's definitely a panel van because that's one of the very iconic sort of images of surfing culture in Australia.
I see. Okay.
The Holden panel van is very much part of classic sort of Australian surfing lore, surfing culture. And it makes sense because I know that Arian's deep into surfing. He loves surfing himself, so it makes sense that he knew about that. And to have that design, it just, I don't know, it looks gorgeous to me.
I see. Well, yeah, I mean, like, I've only ever seen the shirt on eBay once, and of course, like an idiot, I forgot to bid on it, right?
Yeah, I remember you telling me about that
10 hours in advance, right?
Oh,
right?
You missed out. Like I want the shirt as well, and like I'm kicking myself that I didn't even realize I wanted the shirt until it was too late. Like, but the shirt is nowhere to be seen.
Right, and so everyone out there, if you have one and you want to get rid of it, you've got two people here who I think will pay top dollar for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let us know. And I don't know about Ricky, but for me, I'll buy any size because I'm only buying it to collect it. I'm not probably going to wear it, so the size doesn't matter to me as much. But and by the way, and we might as well talk about this because I think it ties into this whole entire leg that we're talking about here. Obviously, this shirt was a very popular design at the night of the concert as well because when this entire leg ended, thankfully, it worked out well for me. What they did was they put a lot of all, I guess, of the lithographs and shirts that didn't sell. They put it on this Australian website, and so you can go there and buy it, and they would ship to wherever, including the United States. But the lithograph was on there, but the shirt sadly was not, unfortunately, But yeah, bummer, man.
If they hadn't sold those extras on their website after the concert, the fact that they did that probably fueled my desire to collect more lithographs because it was so easily accessible. I had I can't remember how many of those designs I purchased from the website. I'm assuming that I probably purchased 4 or 5 or maybe 6 of the lithographs via that website. And, that's in the grand scheme of things, there's 180 or whatever designs in total for the tour, but getting your hands on 5 lithographs
at cost,
yeah, that's a huge win.
And real quick, if you don't mind me telling the audience this, this leg, like New Zealand and Australia, was kind of very unique in terms of the shirts because most of the GNR shirts, including today, but also starting in 2016, they have like that printed tag, right, where it says
Yes.
Guns N' Roses or whatever, right? But if you look real closely, all of them have actual tags cut out of them. They're all gilded shirts. And so whenever people see shirts from Australia and New Zealand sold on eBay and they see that gilded tag, they all think they're fake automatically. They're not. They just didn't cut the tag out for these shirts. I don't know why they didn't cut these out, but why they cut the others out. Maybe it's some law in Australia and New Zealand that you can't cut tags. I have no idea. But just so people know that it doesn't mean it's fake. Look for the tag and look for the printed tag behind it. That's what you should be looking for. But yeah.
And so after all of this gushing about this design, I will admit that there is one kind of flaw that it's a kind of like a big gaping flaw, but it's really minor in the grand scheme of things. But once I noticed it's hard not to notice. The left hand of the skeleton is actually a right hand. The thumb is on the wrong side.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
look at that.
he's giving the bird with his left hand, but the thumb is on the wrong side, so it's actually his right hand. So it's a little bit of a quirk. I don't think most people are going to care. I don't. I can't not notice it anymore, but I still love the design. Like I notice it and it irks me a little, but I still don't care. I love the design.
Oh yeah. Oh hell yeah, man.
Now, this was not the only surfer-themed design for Brisbane. Let's have a look at the other Brisbane design, the Brisbane Yellow Surfer. I think it's a nice design. However, the drawback for me, it's the colors that throw me. They're not complementary colors, but and they don't have to be complementary colors. But like red and yellow they can work together. Green and yellow can work together because, green and gold are traditional Australian colors, and I'm assuming that's why, it's green and gold.
Right.
But having green, yellow, and red being so prominent, it feels a little jarring to me.
Yeah, for me, I gotta say, if it was another artist, I could totally understand. But the fact that it's Bueller again, and that he did a surfing design again, I know, like you just said, he's big into surfing. I didn't know that before, so I understand that. But I don't know. Does Brisbane? It's Brisbane, right? Not Brisbane, I think, right? Brisbane.
Brisbane.
But anyway,
Yes.
right? Yeah. I don't know if they don't have anything else going on there except for surfing. Maybe that's the issue. I don't know. Maybe you can't really think of anything else to reference. And don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to crack down on the guy. I'm sure it's not an easy job or anything. You're trying to come up with ideas like that. But and not only another surfing design, but another Grim Reaper surfing.
Yeah.
I do like I like the rose border. I think that's really cool, actually.
It's beautiful.
Right? And I do like the rose that the Grim Reaper has in its mouth. That's pretty neat. I really never saw that till the other day somehow. But and again, it's another example where the bullet logo is obscured by the design of the lithograph. Kind of interesting. A weird font for Guns N' Roses on top, right? I don't think I've ever seen anyone use that.
That one, that choice is a little bit strange, but I'm guessing it's, I don't know, it's probably more aligned to maybe surfing advertising sort of culture, like
that's what I'm wondering about.
It almost has like an Art Deco look to it.
Yep.
Maybe I'm not quite sure, but to go back to what you're talking about, like with regard to having essentially two almost identical designs for the same concert. What happens, and it's usually out of the artist's hands, is like Arian mentioned in the previous episode when I interviewed him, that for certain cities he may submit 2, 3, 4 multiple designs, and sometimes one gets chosen, sometimes none get chosen, sometimes more than one gets chosen. And I'm thinking that he probably submitted multiple designs for Brisbane, and whoever was the person with the final say, they said, look, maybe they couldn't choose between which one they liked better, so they chose both of them, and so you end up with 2 designs for the same concert that are thematically identical. It probably wasn't intended to be like that, but when you can't, I don't fault them for not, if you can't choose between the two, why not both?
Sure.
So,
hey, why not?
And so I can't hold that against him, having the two very similar designs printed for the same concert. He probably didn't intend for more than one to be accepted, and look, we get graced with a couple of designs, so I'm not complaining, and they're both good designs. So I'm certainly not complaining that we ended up with 2 instead of 1. I did wonder though, again, with me sort of brainstorming the idea that I had about the Purple Surfer 2 litho set thing idea that I had. I always wondered what would have happened if these 2 Brisbane designs had shared the same sort of colors, so as they ended up being, if either of them were, if they were both either green and gold or both purple and green, whether they would have made for a cool set. That's something
that would have been.
That might have made it. That might have made it even cooler. I'm not quite sure. Who knows? Just another one for that we can dream of, I suppose.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I'm not afraid to admit it. And in fact, I'm not afraid to admit it, but I'm a little embarrassed or feel a little guilty mentioning it. But when I've got some spare time, I sometimes doodle with some of these designs and play around with the colors and think, try to figure out whether it would look cooler with some other sort of color scheme or colorway than what was originally printed. And it's probably not my place to do that. I'm not the artist, and it's not what the artist originally intended. But like I said, that when I imagined this design as a monochrome design, it appealed to me a lot more. And changing the colors sometimes results in a design that ends up being more appealing, even if it's on just a personal level. But to all the artists out there, to Guns N' Roses, whoever's in charge of Guns N' Roses merchandise for the immediate and the far future, please don't take that to mean that we want variants. Please don't do variants. Please don't do variants. That's
welcome to the Metallica market. Yeah.
No, please don't.
And you're right, because on the one hand it was kind of cool, sure. On the other hand, I think it would bankrupt you and me if they did.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I've heard the horror
addiction.
I've heard the horror stories of Pearl Jam collectors. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was Chicago or someplace that they had like back-to-back concerts on consecutive nights, and each concert ended up with 3 designs with 2 variants each, and so they ended up with if they really wanted them all, they had 8 or 10 or 12 designs that they needed to collect, and I think I'd just throw my hands up in the air and say I give up.
Yeah, that's insane, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was cool with the Saturday San Diego. That was great. All right, but maybe we'll just keep it at that.
Yeah. It's okay for out of 180 lithographs or whatever, you do that with 1. Yeah, okay, I'll let that slide. Yeah, one in 180. That's a good ratio. Let's do this. Let's do this again in 4 years.
I mean, there's another one I would have loved to see that with, but that's hush hush, so I can't talk about it here. But and that one never came to pass anyway. But still, yeah.
Okay, let's move south to Sydney. Sydney had 3 designs over the course of 2 concerts. Let's first take a look at what we refer to as the Sydney Blue Hat design. This design, it perplexed me for a long, long time. I didn't quite get it, although red, white, and blue are colors on the Australian flag. Clearly, having the poster designed this way, though, with the stars and stripes, seemed to that's obviously a very strong U.S. theme to it, which didn't make sense for Australia, let alone Sydney. However, as I've noted on my website, it was purely by luck while browsing a website that trades vintage posters that I stumbled across the inspiration for this design, the original inspiration. I eventually actually ended up finding out who the artist of this lithograph was, and was fortunate enough to have a dialogue with him regarding this design, as well as one other design he did, which we'll get to later in the show. As suspected, he is a huge fan of the artist Wes Wilson, who was a designer of the original poster from the 60s. And he decided to pay homage to one of those vintage posters that Wes Wilson did. And although I love that it's a reference to a vintage poster, for me, those references and those homages, I really live for those sort of references. Sadly, it simply just doesn't feel like an Australian poster to me. Yeah,
I mean, U.S. vibe obviously stands out very much from anyone looking at this who's been alive in the world for 20 years or more. I just buku bizarre, but for me, how I am, I kind of like those weird designs, and first of all, I like the fact that at the top it says "from LA," like as if they're a new band starting, no one knows where they're from or anything. Like who is this? Oh yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny that they put "from LA" in there. But that weird style hat and everything that's kind of going on with it. So if you talk to the artist, is it red hair for Axel? Is that why, or I guess? Right?
I can't remember whether it was. I'm pretty sure it is though. Yeah, I'd have to go back through the emails, but I am pretty sure that it's meant to represent Axel, and yeah, that weird slouch hat is a reference to the Australian military. However, the problem that I have with the slouch hat isn't the fact that it's a slouch hat. I think that's a great Australian reference to put in there, but I'm 99% sure that the slouch hat that Australian military wear is khaki, like a dirty green, not blue. So that's why it sort of threw me when I first saw it. Like I can instantly recognize that slouch hat as a Australian military thing, but or an Australian army thing. However,
that's the Australian Navy, man.
Yeah,
Navy.
perhaps.
That is kind of. I guess he didn't want to interfere with the rest of the color scheme. Maybe
that makes sense. That makes sense.
I do find it funny as well. I don't think he was meant to be humorous, but like on the one hand side it says February 10th, 2017, and on the other hand it says again, February 11th, but again, 2017. Like there's going to be a different year.
Yeah.
Like why not just put the year one time on there somewhere? But I know he probably wanted like some kind of symmetry there or whatever. So. It's a bizarre one. Yeah.
Thanks, Sydney. You've been great. We'll see you here next year, plus one day.
Yeah, right. And this is an example of a shirt that's actually a rare for GNR, where it's not black shirt. It's white, if I remember correctly.
I've never even seen the shirt, to be honest. Have you got the shirt?
I do.
I've never seen it. I'm going to have to check out your website and have a look at it. I don't know why I've never looked at the shirt.
I can't remember if I got it from that website, or if I had to get it. I think I had to get it off of like eBay or something. I don't think it was on that website, But yes, it's pretty cool. It's nice to see a different color once in a while, or than the black, especially in a place where it can get really hot like Australia.
Yeah,
I want a lighter colored shirt to wear.
Right. Right.
Yeah, interesting, man. And what an obscure reference, but that's really what a small world that you found that when you were looking for stuff, man.
I think. At that stage, I was still sort of searching for the names of a lot of the artists, and there was a lot of. I think I'd sort of realized that a lot of the designs were references, compositionally to other famous paintings or famous posters, etc. And and so I just started sort of hopping online and going from gallery to gallery and poster archives to poster archives, just hoping that I might encounter a composition that I'd seen before. Like off the top of my head, I think that was the only one that I ran into was that Wes Wilson poster.
Wow.
But it does happen. It can happen from time to time. You just stumble on a particular reference. It just happened to me, in fact, a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think, the reference for the Los Angeles skater lithograph design. It was only
the skate or die thing. Yeah. Right,
yeah.
right.
Right. Look, I didn't own a Nintendo, like the original Nintendo when I was a kid, but clearly that's part of my, I suppose, culture when I was a young kid in the 80s and 90s, and I'd never heard of that game before, and I think I was just sort of browsing through YouTube videos. I think so there's a few reviews or a few videos just talking about old school video games, and one of the pictures that popped up was the cover art for Skate or Die, and as soon as I saw it, like it clicked. I mean, oh yeah, okay, clearly that's where it's from, and I felt it. Like as soon as I saw it, like I'd never seen that Skate or Die cover art before, but looking at the way that Los Angeles skater lithograph had been composed, it just struck me that, like, I'm sure I've seen this before, or I'm sure it just looks like it's in reference to something, and especially the typeface, the font at the top. I thought it might have been in reference to a computer game. Like, I think the first thing that came to mind was for some reason I thought of, there is an old, I think it might have even been a rollerblading game or something called Bitchin'. I don't know whether you remember a video game from the late 80s or the early 90s called Bitchin'. And so it just sort of, as soon as I remember seeing that original poster, I thought, oh, I'm sure this is a reference to like a video game or a a movie from that era, and I couldn't quite place it. And so when I saw the design for Skate or Die, it's like, yep, there it is, got it, nailed it. Same thing happened with this Sydney Blue Hat design. I was just sort of flicking through page after page, looking at these thumbnails of vintage posters, and it's clearly, this bright blue and bright red sort of design. It just stands out at you. And as soon as I saw it, it's like, yep, nailed it again. I got it. And it's a nice feeling. I really like when I'm able to discover what the original reference is.
Yeah, that game is called Skitchin, actually.
Skitchin, is it? No, I'm sure that I was sure that there's another. Game. I was sure that there's another game called Bitchin. Well, maybe I'm confusing it with some other games out there, but I was certain that there was a game out there that sort of was like a curse word, and like I could remember thinking, man, if I really wanted to get my parents to buy this for me, I wouldn't be able to say what I wanted because it was such a rude word. So I don't know. I guess I'm conflating it with another game from that era. But yeah, I think, Skitchin. There you go.
I mean, it definitely, I can see shots from the game, but definitely rollerblading and stuff. But it says that when they advertised it, they used the word bitchin and everything.
Well, maybe that was where I got it mixed up.
Yeah. But it's pretty interesting. Wow, a rollerblading video game. I never even knew that existed.
But
but it's the same people that made Road Rash, by the way.
I was just about to say that was another game. Road Rash was another game that I thought might have been a reference for that Los Angeles Skater poster. And so it felt like it was in reference to that era, from that part of video game culture. And so when I finally stumbled across it, it was a really cool feeling. And this one more so because I just had absolutely no idea what this was in reference to, but it, like this Sydney Blue Hat design, and it felt too deliberate a design, like it's way out there. You wouldn't automatically be drawn to the idea of doing a Stars and Stripes sort of themed poster for an Australian concert. So I'd always sort of thought that maybe this was in reference to something else. And so I'm glad that I ran into it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
But this is not the only poster for Sydney, and it's not the only one that references an older design or an older cultural theme. We can move on to the next two designs for Sydney, and I'd like to look at them sort of like at the same time, side by side, since they're obviously meant to be a pair. We've got Sydney Toecutter and Sydney Wes. Toecutter and Wes are clearly two very iconic characters from the Mad Max mythos. These are pretty cool. Again, I'm a fan of like the limited color palette, like I mentioned before. However, and this is purely a personal thing, so I don't expect anybody to agree with me here, but I have never seen any of the original Mad Max movies in their entirety.
What?
I mean, yeah, look, I know of them. I know they're famous, and it's strange to say this, but I'm actually a fan of a couple of George Miller's other films. Like George Miller is the director of all the Mad Max films, even the latest one that came out a few years ago. But for whatever reason, I was never really drawn to the Mad Max mythos enough to at least to watch any of the original trilogy. So, as you can expect, I don't really feel drawn to either of these lithos. However, for the Australian Guns N' Roses fan who is also a Mad Max fan, I imagine these would be pretty cool to have.
Yeah, for sure. And wow, the skeleton. You can definitely tell is Bueller. Because the skeleton, the head of the skeleton is totally looks exactly like the New Zealand design, right? That he did. I mean, it's amazing looking how similar it is. But no, a great reference to a movie that was filmed in Australia that a lot of people don't realize. But so it's a great Australian reference, I think, and a brilliant way of doing like two nights and using like the same reference to for both nights. That's really cool. What I find kind of amusing, and again, I don't think he did it to be funny, but on the bottom you see where it says ANZ Stadium. And then it says Sydney, AU, like just in case you don't know what country you're in or whatever, right?
Just in case it's like, I don't know, Sydney, Nebraska, or
right?
Sydney, Northern Finland, or something, right?
Yeah. So I think that's pretty funny, but it's hard to gauge how desirable or popular these were because these were definitely on the site when that site was selling them, and even now they don't fetch a ton on like eBay or anything like that, or even on private seller exchanges. I don't know, if people just don't know Mad Max, or they know Mad Max and just don't like it, and or I don't know what it is, but yeah, people aren't really fond of these as much. That's for sure.
Yeah, look, I think that it's really hard to tell what trends for some of the designs. Like, you can look at a design and clearly think, okay, I totally understand why this is popular, or I totally understand why no one gives a shit about this design. But every now and again, there's a design that you think, like, you can't put your finger on why it isn't popular, but it isn't.
Yeah.
And vice versa. Sometimes there's some designs that you can't really understand why everyone wants it, but it commands a high value. Like, okay, I'm treading on dangerous territory here, but like, for me, I don't really understand the appeal of some tool poster designs. Like, they pull like significant value, significant numbers in terms of price and value, and I just don't get it. Like, I've seen some of the designs, and they can be very cool and very psychedelic and all that, but some others just don't draw me. But you look online, and there's people willing to spend $400, $600, $800 on it, and it's like, why? Like, $600 could buy you some other tool design that I think is far more appealing, and I just can't quite explain, or people can't quite explain to me why it is particularly popular. And the same, you're spot on with these designs. They're very, very cool designs, and I would have thought that they would be harder to get and more expensive on the resale market, but look, we're more than 3 years on now, and you can still probably get them for less than $100, and they do pop up relatively frequently on eBay and other sort of similar resale sites. Yeah, what else is there to say?
Not much, really. I guess I think that's about it.
Okay, well, farther south we move then. Let's move on to Melbourne, with the first design being the Ned Kelly design. Go ahead. You can go first, Tim. What?
I mean, I'll say right off the bat, it's not my favorite color scheme, right? Like, I understand that why it's red. I mean, one, there's like apparently a fire in the background, but also it's Valentine's Day, so that makes sense for the red, I guess, But still, I just, it's not my favorite color scheme personally. A great reference though, for Australia and everything. So I'm glad to see something other than surfing or animals or whatever. Not that I have anything wrong with surfing or animals, but still. Beyond that though, like, and also what's kind of weird to me, I mean, it's probably just the colors, I guess, but you see like behind the mask, the eyes and everything there, it seems like a different style of art than the rest of the thing going on here, which I guess makes it stand out and contrast well, but to me it's a little bit bizarre.
Right there with you on that. That was going to be my one gripe. But yeah, go ahead.
No, I mean that's really it, I guess. Just not one of my favorites,
For me, this design is like, man, it's like so close and yet so far. I like nearly everything about it. I like the theme, I like the execution in terms of like the gun in one hand and the roses in the other. It's a perfect choice of theme. Ned Kelly is clearly a cultural icon of Australian history. The colors. Look, the colors remind me a lot of some Shepard Fairey poster designs.
Absolutely.
In fact, there's actually a pretty iconic Shepard Fairey design that has that same sort of pinwheel background theme, and it also uses the same sort of red and off-white color scheme.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and it even includes guns and roses in the design. So, like, I don't know whether that was a deliberate sort of reference or it was an homage or or an inspiration for the composition and the choice of colors. But yeah, I have seen this style of poster, I suppose, executed before, and it can be kind of cool. However, perhaps, yeah, like you mentioned, my only gripe is that I think that the eyes look ridiculous. You've got this super, super cool, super menacing design for the rest of the poster, but then the eyes staring back at you through the helmet is like, I don't know, it looks like a couple of cartoon frog eyes to me or something.
Right. It might have been cooler to have just the pupils showing, and red pupils or something in the back, in the background, or I don't know, something like that, right? For
me, I would have preferred if the slit had just been completely blacked out, so you
or just see, black. Yep.
Yeah, so you just couldn't see who or what was behind the mask. I thought, I think that would have been cooler. But apart from that, look, it's a cool design. It's also one of the few designs that is still sort of available online on retail websites.
Right.
Admittedly, those websites are not official Guns N' Roses merchandise sellers, but I know of at least one Australian poster retail site and another English poster retail site who both seem to have a few of these posters still in stock, 3 years later.
Wow.
They charge a small premium. I think the British website, I think, is charging £70, which is $70 or $80 or whatever. So it's not extreme.
It's not too bad, yeah. Right.
It's not that much above what they cost at the concert. And considering, like I said, considering this design is over 3 years old, the fact you can go online and buy one for a reasonable price without needing to go the eBay route, that's kind of surprising. And like we mentioned with the other designs, the other lithographs and the other shirts, etc., the lithograph didn't sell too well, and just like all the other lithographs from Australia and New Zealand that didn't sell out at the concert, the local merchandising company just put them up on their website for sale after the concert. You could buy quite a few of these designs on the website for a couple of months or so after the concert. And I'm guessing these poster retail websites maybe bought a couple dozen for their stockroom or whatever, and they've just been slowly selling them ever since. So yeah, if you want a Ned Kelly, they're not too difficult to find.
And by the way, if I can get on my soapbox for a minute here, and I meant to talk about it earlier, but it was awesome that I was able to get a lot of these from this leg on that website after the fact, right? The lithographs and the shirts,
right,
and other things they sold. They had all their keychains and crap like that, right, from those concerts. However, what I don't understand, you have a website. You have an official website. Not only an official website just for information. You have an official website where you sell stuff. Why not put it on there? I don't really understand that, right? I was kind of fortunate that my friend told me about this site before most people knew about it, so I was able to get the stuff that I wanted real quick, right? But what if no one had ever found out about it, and it would have been some obscure site that no one knew about? Why not put it on your official website for Guns N' Roses, the GNRmerch.com site? I don't get it, but whatever. That's their business, I guess.
Yeah, I think we all know that merchandising, the intent of merchandising is to make money,
right? Right.
And you make money by selling merchandise. And if it doesn't sell at the concert, surely it would make sense to sell it online. I know that probably somewhere along the line, you're probably going to have to spend more money to freight that stuff to a warehouse or pay money to store it somewhere just so as you retain the ability to continue selling it online. However, I would think that you could surely it's not going to cut into your profits that much. Even if it did cut into your profits, I don't think anyone would really. Would you really fault them for charging a little bit more for the leftover stuff on the website? If the shirt was $40 at the concert and it didn't sell out, and they decided to sell it for $50 a week later on the website, I don't think anyone's going to hate them for charging a little bit more, right?
Absolutely. I was just thinking about that too. Because I could totally understand. One of the reasons they might have done this route that they went is to because they didn't want to deal with the cost, like you said, of shipping it all back and then having to hire someone to sort it all out, and like you said, storage costs. So I would have no problem if they charged that. And when this company approached them, or maybe they approached the company, I'm not sure what happened here, to work at this deal, right? Did they ask him, like, hey, do you ship all over the world? I don't even know if they inquired about that, right? So we just happened to get lucky that they shipped worldwide. What if they only shipped to Australia and New Zealand? Fortunately, I have friends that could have helped me out, but otherwise, if I didn't have those friends, I would have been screwed, right?
Agreed.
So it just happened to work out, but it could have gone south. I just wish, and I know. Look, man, this is just Australia and New Zealand or whatever. I think the New Zealand stuff was on their website as well. Pretty sure. I know, and I'm not saying every concert, right? I know full well that some concerts everything sells out, like the Japanese concerts, for example, right? However, we know there's other concerts that didn't sell out of everything, and I think you and I know where some of that ended up. We won't get into that in this episode, maybe, but still,
no, we can get into it now if you want. I know that we know that some of these designs that, especially in terms of the lithographs, if they don't sell out, a lot of them just get trashed.
And that's really unfortunate. Yeah, you're right. Man, goddamn. It's one thing for a person to choose to do that to their own lithograph, but for the company just to throw them all out or trash them, that's really sad.
There's got to be a solution that works for Guns N' Roses management, merchandise management, and the fans. I refuse to believe that the current situation is the least worst alternative, least worst option. There's got to be a better solution.
I kind of liked your idea of, and I think you could do this with the lithographs and the lithograph event shirts. Yeah, you have the artist submit the designs and you choose whatever designs you're going to do. All right, and then you let the world know in advance of each concert, hey, and again, you print however many are ordered or desired, right? You know what I mean? And that's the number that exists of those. Like I know how you talked about that before with the lithographs. I think that could work with the lithographs and the shirts, and then you print them all in LA or wherever you print them, but you ship them all to LA, and then from there they get shipped out to whoever ordered them, right? And of course, people, no matter where you live, whether you live down the street or whether you live across the world, you'll have to pay for shipping or whatever. Okay, fine. But,
that's better than not being able to get it at all, right?
Well, right, exactly. It's better not being able to get it at all, or having to pay a much larger markup on eBay after the fact or whatever, right? Food for thought if anyone from GNR is listening. Or, the GNR, the business, not the band, of course.
The one thing I will add, however, that I think that, like, I'm not 100% about this, but I'm fairly confident that in terms of organizing tour merchandise is different from online merchandise. Like, I feel like that the group of people that are organizing what happens and what gets sold on gnrmerch.com is a completely different arm to what happens with to the people that are doing the tour merchandise, which sort of makes sense because then that probably explains why never the twain meet. Like that's the reason maybe why leftover tour merchandise doesn't end up on the gnrmerch.com website like we think it should. Yeah, I think that might be an element to it that they're separate sort of entities that deal with different aspects of the merchandising world. Whether it's possible for those two entities to work together, you would hope that they could. But even if they couldn't, I'm sure that there would be some, create a new website, leftovergnrtourmerch.com. Like it wouldn't be too difficult, and I think that you could still, make money off of us fans, and we'd be happy about it because we'd be able to get merchandise that we want that we were previously unable to get, and the money that they've laid down to make this merchandise, it doesn't go to waste. These items are not getting trashed and just being chalked up as collateral or whatever. They'd be finding a good home and they'd be getting our cash in their wallets.
Yep. Win-win, man. All right.
Yeah. Okay, well, Ned Kelly was not the only design for Melbourne, there was an Aaron Buehler design as well. Let's have a look at Melbourne Tiger. Now, I absolutely love this design. It's not without its flaws, but it's easily one of my favorites from the leg. It's a good composition. As I mentioned before, I am a huge fan of the way Aaron Buehler draws roses, and this design is clearly jam-packed with them. The way the moonlight is reflected on the skull and the teeth, I think that's really cool. I also really like that this, contrary to what people might think, this is not a black lithograph. In real life, it's a very dark charcoal gray, which I think is very surprising, but at least for me, pleasantly surprising. The only issue I have with it is that it's a skull of a Tasmanian tiger, which, as the name suggests, is more representative of the state of Tasmania, not the city of Melbourne, which is in a completely different state. However, before they went extinct, the Tasmanian tiger is extinct. Before they went extinct, part of the original habitat of the Tasmanian tiger was not just the island of Tasmania, but also the southern part of Victoria around Melbourne. So although the naming makes it a little awkward, it kind of sounds weird if you try to refer to the litho as the Melbourne Tasmanian tiger. Although that sounds strange, I still think it's a really magnificent design. The Tasmanian tiger, actually, like the official name for that species is a thylacine. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we should be referring to the litho as the Melbourne thylacine. Maybe that makes things a little, I don't know.
Yeah, true.
I just think Melbourne Tasmanian tiger sounds strange, and Melbourne tiger sounds strange because, when you think tiger, you don't automatically think Tasmanian tiger. You need that Tasmanian adjective there as a qualifier. But thylacine is thylacine, so maybe that's a better word to use.
But as for the lithograph, of course I like it a lot. First of all, I like the bottom with the scientific name of it. That's really cool. They did that. All the roses, like you said, they're Buehler classic. He's really well drawn for the roses, and of course the amount of them in this case makes sense for Valentine's Day. And the moon reflection, to me, I don't know about you, it totally reminds me for some reason of the Paris litho. Right? I mean, just like maybe it's the moon and everything. I don't know what it is about it, but I get very well reminded of the Paris 2017 lithograph here. The only, I guess it's kind of weird that the skull is a skull, right? So it's dead, but yet it has an eye still, and there's like blood on the teeth, like it's alive, I guess. I don't know, right? And again, this is a hard one for me to get a gauge on how popular it was or how in demand it is, or because you don't really see it too often, and I don't know what the price people are willing to pay on this one, but I guess people pay whatever they feel they want to pay for it. That's the answer to that.
I haven't seen one for resale for probably a couple of years. So
yeah.
If anyone is out there that has one that might be willing to get rid of it, I know a couple of people that would love to buy it. So please get in touch. Okay, well, let's carry on. Let's check out the next design. The next one is a doozy.
And so this is the same guy that did the Sydney 2-night one, right? Like the blue hat, right?
Yes, this is from the same artist that did Sydney Blue Hat.
All right. And I guess you can see the hair is kind of similar to that one, Other than that, I mean, this is again one of the weirdest ones out there, right? Which means, of course, automatically that I'm a fan of it. Then, don't get me wrong. Just because I'm a fan of it doesn't mean it's like my top, 5 or anything like that. But still, it's and I kind of like. I don't know what kind of art what kind of what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word for that kind of art that's used in this case? But I like it. Like maybe it was done on like an oil on canvas and then just printed. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But anyway, I like it. I gotta say, I kind of wish with this particular design that they went with, maybe a different font would have been more appropriate. I don't know I can't tell you what font that would have been. I don't have the answer to that. But personally, I feel like a different font might have worked better. But anyway, that's all I really have to say about it. I don't know about you, man.
Yeah, look, this design has been kind of like this bizarre little footnote in the story of the Not in This Lifetime Tour lithographs for years. We all went years not really knowing the story behind the design, not knowing who the artist was, what or who he was trying to paint here. It was just a complete mystery. It just seemed really, really bizarre. However, while I was trying to find the names of all of the artists for all of the designs, I was actually able to track down the artist. And like I said, he's actually the same artist who did the Sydney blue hat design that we discussed earlier. He's an Australian artist, and I actually wanted to read out what he explained to me when he was kind enough to answer some of my questions about the designs that he did. His story about this lithograph goes like this. When I was asked to submit a design for Guns N' Roses, I thought about what I would like to do. I wanted to present a poster that was in my style of art. I thought about skulls and rock and roll, etc. I realized I had painted a picture in 2011 that was perfect already, and it kind of resembled Axel. I added some type in my own handwriting and thought, that looks cool, and was different to all their other imagery. They liked it too. They being GNR and the people in charge of merchandising. So the story essentially is that the design was a completely independent design that the artist did years and years ago. And although it kind of does resemble Axel, it was painted 6 years before the concert and has nothing to do with Axel or anything to do with Guns N' Roses. And if you look up the artist Paul McNeil's website, you'll see that it is definitely similar in style to his other designs. So it is uniquely his own style, which I think is pretty cool. And, well, that's pretty much all there is to it. I think it's unique, it's quirky, and sometimes that's kind of cool. But at the same time, although I don't have anything against it in that sense, it has nothing really to do with Guns N' Roses, so it doesn't work for me as a concert poster. If I see this hanging in an art gallery somewhere, I would look at it in a completely different light. But surely as a concert poster, it has to have some connection to the concert, right?
Right. I think it definitely should, at the very least. And this one clearly does not. And again, not trying to offend the artist or anything, but just a fact. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think that's great that Guns N' Roses, the band or the company or whoever decided that they liked it and all. That's awesome. But I think you want fans to buy this stuff when they're at the show, right? And therefore you're going to want it to have something to do with either not only the band but the show they're at, right? Or the country they're in or something. I mean, I guess the fact that the artist is Australian can relate to the country, but most people might not know that, especially at the show, right? And I guess you could argue the one reference to the band is the red hair for Axel, but even then, I don't think Axel's hair is currently this long, and it certainly wasn't at that time. So whether you could argue it's Axel or not is debatable. Axel in the past, maybe, right?
I feel like, see, my thing is that clearly the artist was willing to sort of take an old design and modify it a little bit, like putting the Guns N' Roses in his own handwriting, etc. So he's, there's some artists that they're not willing to compromise, like their art is their art and take it or leave it. But other artists, they're happy to sort of modify it and tweak it and breathe new life into it as some other form of art, which clearly is what Paul McNeil has tried to do here. He's reinvented something that he's designed, that he created for something else, and he's rebranded it and been able to give it a second life as a concert poster. However, I don't know. For me, I would want it to, if it was chosen because it seemed to have a little bit of a resemblance to Axel, I would have probably thought to myself, well, is there any way that you could tweak it a little to make it a little bit more like Axel? Like, for me,
right.
What if he'd added a bandana? Like, that would have been enough. That would have been enough for me to think, okay, you know what? That's Axel, and that's a Guns N' Roses concert poster.
And you could have done like a yellow and gold bandana for the Australian colors, right?
Right.
Something like that, right? I'll say this: if GNR and Paul are listening to this, I want 4 more variants of this one: pink hair, yellow hair, blue hair, green hair.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay. Well, look. Again, one of the recurring themes of the Australian shows was that a lot of these concerts had more than one design, and same with Adelaide. This design by Paul was not the only design. There was another one, and let's have a look at it. Let's check out the other Adelaide design, which to me definitely feels more like a concert poster to me. We've got Adelaide Shark. It's definitely not my preferred style. However, there's a couple of things I do like about Adelaide Shark. I think the colors are great. The style is beautiful too. I like the way the waves are painted to look like deliberate brush strokes. I don't know off the top of my head what that type of painting style is, but it's very deliberate and I do think it's appropriate for this style of poster. But for me, the coolest thing about it, which isn't immediately obvious to people unless they're looking at a large version of the image, is that some of the buildings on the skyline are guns. I think it's a really, really cool, subtle addition. The weird sort of, in real life, the weird sort of green-yellow color that they use for the font at the bottom and the bullet logo, that's a bit weird. Like, I didn't really understand. Like, it doesn't. You barely see that color used anywhere else in the rest of the poster. Like, you can see some of the strokes in the waves is in the same color, but 99.9% of the rest of the poster doesn't use that weird sort of green-yellow color. I thought it might have been better if they'd chosen a different color for that. But apart from that, I think it's perfectly cool. And just like the other Adelaide poster, they're in low volume, so they're kind of hard to find. Yeah,
I think I think one of the things about the poster that's really beautiful is the reflection of the sunset in the background water there. I think they did a really good job with that. The shark, I mean, I get the reference, great white sharks in Australia, or just sharks in general, but probably great white is what it's supposed to be, I'm guessing. And I I gotta say, man, not that I'm trying to call your knowledge or research into question here, but this is going to sound bizarre. You sure this isn't a Bueller? Because if it isn't, it should say like it should say AJ Fischera, with acknowledgement to Bueller, because look at the designs from LA and San Diego, man. This is like a total influenced by, at the very least, right? And
absolutely,
the guns in the background, that was the San Diego background, right?
Seattle as well, right?
Yep, that's right. And Seattle, I'm not sure. You're right. There was another one that had guns in the background, but it wasn't Seattle. But I can't remember what it was or now. But also, you see the way the sunset in the background is like what do you want to call that? Like arched. The design of it, right? The brushstrokes are like an arch.
Yep.
You see what I'm talking about, right? Same thing with the first LA lithograph. The skateboard one. It's the same exact brushstroke arch design. I gotta say, man, that's like. He must have been influenced by Bueller at the very least, right? I mean, come on, right?
I remember. I certainly remember at the time that it looked like a Bueller design to me.
Right.
Like it.
Even the rose, right? I mean,
but from at least from the source that I got, which is someone at. Involved with Guns N' Roses merchandising, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that it was also on AJ Fischera's Instagram page,
sure it was,
or something. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm correct there that it's that it's his design. Yeah, that style of it's certainly reminiscent of other designs by other artists.
Yeah.
If you look at the design for, I think it's Austin City Limits Night 2, it's by a completely different artist. But again, that one has a very similar artistic style to the sunset sort of background, and that one also to me sort of felt like, is this the same artist? Oh, wait a minute, it isn't, but they all sort of can sometimes look similar to each other.
Yeah, probably kind of blend together after a while, right?
Yeah.
You
And
know.
I don't know, like, I think it's just purely coincidence. However, generally speaking, yes, sharks are probably a natural theme to go with Australia.
Right.
However, specifically with Adelaide, and I'm sure this is purely coincidental for multiple reasons that I'll mention, but that area, the southern part of Australia, where Adelaide is, like that concave sort of shape at the bottom, is actually called the Great Australian Bight. Now, Bight is spelled differently. It's Bight. It's a geological formation,
Right.
but I think within Australian culture, it's sort of considered a pun. That, like, if you look at it, it looks like someone's taken a chunk out of the bottom of Australia.
Oh, right.
So maybe, again, it's probably coincidental, but I always thought that it was a good choice to have the shark theme for Adelaide, because Adelaide is in, the city is in the Great Australian Bight, that southern part of Australia that looks like it's had a bite taken out of it. And so, yeah, I thought it worked. It worked. Whether it was coincidental or not, I thought it was a good combination of geographical location, a pun on words, and obviously a good choice for which concert location to use for a shark theme.
Right. And like you said, can't remember the last time I saw one for sale, really, actually. And the shirt is equally impossible to find. So
again, I've never even, I don't think I've ever seen the shirt available anywhere either. So, yeah, definitely. Look, especially these like remote locations, like we're going to head to the last stop next on the Australian tour. And these locations are very isolated cities, we'll move to Perth next, but Perth is, from memory, the most isolated state capital in the world.
Wow.
And so it makes sense that these designs are hard to find. Like the chances of fans traveling to these locations, fans that don't live in these locations traveling to these isolated locations are a little bit lower, because they're harder to get to, they're more expensive to get to. You could be traveling thousands of miles to just go to this one concert in Adelaide or one concert in Perth. So yeah, it makes sense that maybe the locals grabbed them. They both, Adelaide and Perth, were printed in very, very low numbers, so they're very hard to find.
Yeah, so if anyone listening out there has a T-shirt, and if you want to earn some money in these times of economic uncertainty, hit me up, because I'm definitely looking for one. So
yeah. You definitely got willing buyers here. Just get in touch.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Look, I think we've exhausted all we have to say on the two Adelaide designs. Let's move ahead to the two Perth designs. Now, my guest for this episode, Terry, actually went to this Perth concert. So I recorded a segment earlier with him where we discussed these two Perth designs, both Perth Bunyip and the Perth Spider design. I'm going to go ahead and play that segment first, and then once we're done listening to that, we'll switch back over to you, Tim, and get your opinion on these designs.
All right.
Terry, this Perth concert, this was the concert that you attended, right?
Yeah, it was. This was, man, I was ecstatic just to know that they were coming. The three original members coming to Perth, set out, got me tickets. I think they went on sale August the previous year.
This concert was in February, right?
February the 21st, 2017. So, as you could imagine, I was pumped on the morning. Ended up going with my wife. Both took the day off from work, dropped the kids off at school, and we were straight into the city. So we spent all day in the city, went to Subiaco where the concert was held. The merch tent wasn't even open at that stage, but got to go and talk to the people setting it up, and asked them straight away what time was it opening. Look, and then we sort of walked around, the town of Subiaco for the majority of the day. Got back to the venue, waited till they opened. Actually, I think I spent about $700 on merchandise, which was a massive amount. And I was actually first in line waiting for the lithos to be numbered. So, and silly me, only ended up getting one of each. And there's obviously a story behind that with yourself as well. So
now, I want to sort of point out to a lot of our North American and European fans, this is February in Australia. February in Australia is summer, right? It can get hot as fucking Hades in Australia in February, with Perth being no exception. My image of Perth in summer, I remember they played the Hotman Cup, the tennis tournament, at the start of every year in Perth, and they're always complaining about it being hot as hell. Was it hot that day, or was it one of those rare sort of comfortable summer days? Or
actually, I remember it wasn't really, really hot, and it was quite windy as well. So
that's good.
That did die. The wind died down, obviously, once the concert started, but it wasn't one of those real painstaking, really, really hot days, which was a blessing, really.
Because I can just imagine, like you said, you were the first one in line for merchandise. What time did you actually turn up and start lining up?
Well, I think we got to Subiaco, the town of Subiaco, parked the car, went for a wander, and that was around 10:30 in the morning. Then the actual merch tent didn't open until about 2, so gives you an indication of how many hours we spent, waiting to get in.
I think you know me well enough, and the amount of concerts that I've gone to, that's par for the course. That
it is. Yeah, it is.
If you want to maximize your chances of both getting the merchandise that you want, and as well as getting a decent spot at the rail, you got to get there super early, like
exactly,
crazy,
man.
Stupid early.
Exactly.
Can you remember the night before the concert? Did you actually manage to sleep?
Oh, maybe a few hours. But yeah, the excitement was definitely there. Just to see the 3 original members, that was just amazing to know that you're going to see, finally, for myself to see Axel, Slash and Duff on that same stage,
You mentioned, just backtracking a little bit, you mentioned that it was the August of the previous year that
tickets went on sale.
That time, like, were you actually following the Guns N' Roses Not in This Lifetime tour?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I started following it, as soon as they announced it from the Troubadour, onto when they came to Perth. So I was, and being on the night train, being a night train member on their website and all that, it gave you that, it gives us in Australia, being isolated, that opportunity to follow it, which is great.
Because for me, it was the complete opposite. Like, generally speaking, there's probably a whole bunch of reasons for it, but usually I don't follow a particular tour. Like, if they're coming to Japan, I'll sort of put it out of my mind until the Japan concerts are really sort of upon me. Usually it's because I'm busy with other things, but even if I'm not, I try not to dwell too much on the other concerts of the tour, because it just makes me think, damn it, someone else is getting to
go and I'm not there.
Yeah, and I'm not there. So back in 2016, especially around August or so, I wasn't following the tour at all. I think maybe there's even a chance. Yeah, I certainly wasn't following it, and I really didn't focus too much on the tour until, I saw an email pop up in my inbox saying that, Guns N' Roses tickets were going to go on sale soon for Japan.
Yeah, right.
And then that's sort of when I kicked in and, I bought a ticket, but then even after I bought a ticket, I really wasn't focusing on the US concerts. It was really only maybe come the start of the year, January was the shows in Japan. So maybe the start of the new year, like the New Year's Day, was maybe around about the time that I started, clicking on Guns N' Roses articles online and sort of hyping myself up.
Well, I think maybe the reason why I love to see it through is, we don't get the opportunity here to go to as many shows and see, as we discussed before. So I suppose my way of getting to see those shows is just keeping up to date with it.
Oh, and I totally understand that, because now that's how I am. I do exactly what you do now. I just, back then, I suppose, that was 4 years ago, I was a little bit more naive, a little bit more oblivious to it all. So, my habits have changed. I'm very eager every morning when they're on tour, at least, every morning to, check out what sort of media is available, what news is available.
100%.
All of that sort of stuff. But I wasn't chiming in back in 2016. I wasn't chiming in. I wasn't tuning in. If it wasn't Guns N' Roses in Japan related, I would probably find something else to do with my time. Now, one thing I just remembered, I think, and correct me if I'm mistaken, but this concert was at Subiaco Oval, correct?
It was, yes.
And that doesn't exist anymore, is that correct?
No, it doesn't. So yeah, it was one of the last concerts there. So now we've got the new stadium, sort of more sort of localised in the centre, whereas Subiaco was sort of pushed at the back of the city. But yeah, it was one of the last shows at the Subiaco Oval. There's been a couple of concerts during this tour in several countries where Guns N' Roses have ended up playing in a stadium that no longer exists, which is a really bizarre thought. That I guess we've got some, at least for myself, I've got these enduring memories of some of these iconic stadiums and iconic arenas. For example, let's say Madison Square Garden or Dodger Stadium. And I've grown up with these sort of places already existing, even though they may have been renovated or changed in a way over the decades. Some of them are really, really iconic. And to think that one of these stadiums where one of your formative, one of your most important, most impactful memories happened in a location that no longer exists, that's I don't know, that's a little bittersweet, don't you think? Yeah, it is, definitely. Well, let's hope they come back to Perth in the coming years and they can play at the new stadium. I would absolutely love the idea of a Guns N' Roses concert in Australia, in that stadium, that new stadium that you're talking about that holds 100,000 people or something. That would be absolutely insane. It'd be amazing. Maybe you could get on a plane and come and rock out with me. I think. I mean, we've discussed that. Haven't we? Yes, we have. I really was hoping that on this past tour, not this lifetime tour, I had hoped that that they do a second round with Australia like they did with South America and Europe, but unfortunately they didn't. No. But that being said, if they play Perth again in the near future, I haven't been to Perth in many years. So I think that would be as good as an excuse as any to come visit and hang out and rock out with you. Yeah, that'd be right, man. Now, we've talked about the concert itself. Now let's focus a little bit more on the merchandise. I asked this of ET in the previous episode. When did you first hear of the lithographs? When did you find out that these lithographs were kind of like a thing? Like obviously they've got merchandise, but the lithographs were something that was new to Not in This Lifetime. You were following the tour during 2016, and clearly they had lithographs in 2016. At what stage do you remember noticing, oh, hey, wait a minute, they're bringing out these designs, different designs for different concerts. I might be going early in line to grab whatever design that they do for Perth. Yeah, look, I think I originally sort of took notice probably about the middle of 2016. I don't know exactly what day or date, which concert it was, but I sort of caught wind that they were doing these lithos and obviously for every show, and I think it just steamrolled on from there. So it was just interesting to see which design was coming out for which show, and just made sure that I could get one definitely when they hit Perth.
Because again, that's something where we differ in our experiences of very differently. I clearly, because I was not following the tour with any regularity until they hit Japan, I was completely oblivious to the lithographs. I had no idea what it was, and in fact, I kind of stumbled upon the lithographs. I didn't. I was looking for other things at the time when I jumped onto a forum, and just pure happenstance that I found out about the merchandise. Pure luck that the merchandise for Japan, they sort of released the designs not just of the lithographs but just of the merch in general. They'd sort of leaked them or put them up on the internet a couple of weeks before the concert. So even more luck on my behalf. If I had known, if someone had told me, oh, can you go get me a lithograph, and I had not seen what they were talking about, if I didn't have the chance to see the design of the lithograph on the website beforehand, I probably may not have paid as much attention to it. Like I may have dismissed the request if someone had asked me to go grab a lithograph, and me not know at all what that is, or what that was going to look like. I may have just said, oh, you know what? No, I'm sorry. I'm going to be there for the concert, or, I might, if you want to, I might grab you a t-shirt or something. And that might have been it. So it's really interesting to hear that, you months and months before your concert, you already knew that, the grabbing merchandise and grabbing a lithograph was probably going to be a thing for you. When did you make the decision, or when did you realize that, okay, these lithographs are popular. If I'm going to get one, I'm going to have to get there early. When do you remember when you sort of realized that was going to be the case, and do you remember when you made the decision that, hey, look, you turned to your wife and you said, hey, we're going to have to get there early for merch?
Yeah, look, I think we were going to make a day of it anyway, so it wasn't sort of we had to work out we're going to what time. We knew we were going to get there at relatively early. Sort of scope the joint out as you do. You find out where the merch tents are, and everyone that's got the same idea obviously does that exact thing. You get there early, you scope out where the merch is, and like I said, we'd always planned to be there early, so it wasn't really we sort of had it planned out that we were going to get there, see where the merch is, ask them what time they were opening, and do what else we needed to do, and then make sure we were back there to be first in line.
See, again, your experience is almost the complete polar opposite to mine. You were a hell of a lot more prepared than I was.
Mate, I was going to be prepared because I wasn't missing out on anything.
Well, I mean, you heard my story in the previous episodes that I just rocked up at the time that they said that the doors were going to open, and had no plans to really focus on merchandise for that first concert, and I made a complete dog's breakfast of planning for it, and purely, it was just pure luck that I was able to get the merchandise that I wanted after the concert. But in terms of the Perth show and the Perth lithograph, you helped me out with getting a lithograph from the Perth show. Like, I know that you mentioned that you're sort of kicking yourself that you only got one of each when you were there, but we sort of have bonded over our appreciation for the lithographs, and you were my sort of my right-hand man when it came to try to source a Perth lithograph for myself.
That's where the connection started, man.
Yeah, and look, we didn't know each other until then, and really only pure luck. We sort of ran into each other, became friends, and I thank God every day for that, because you're able to just help me source my Perth lithographs.
It's a pleasure, and I can say a bit of you've got the Perth litho, the original one that I purchased is part of the Lithorati
and
legacy.
I can't thank you enough for that, because I know that at the time you were giving me your only Perth lithograph, and it was it took a little while, I remember, for you to find a replacement, and I'm glad that you did. And the first thought that I had was, you know what, I know they're exactly the same apart from the number, but I really felt obligated to at least offer to swap, to at least that my Perth lithograph was the one that you originally purchased yourself, and I sort of felt like it would be it made sense to at least send that back to you to send it back to the original owner, and then maybe the one that you had found to replace it could end up being mine. I know it sounds a lot of effort for no reason, but that was the first. That was my first instinct was, now that we could both have one, it makes sense that you get back the one that you originally purchased. But I know you declined that. You were happy to stick with the replacement one that you were able to source. And
yeah, right. Yep.
The lithograph that you purchased at the show is the one that's in my personal collection. So you've
that's the feeling. I know we did discuss that, and it's an honour for me to have the original one that I purchased sitting in your as part of the Lithorati collection.
Yeah. So, I think it's certainly a special note to put in the books for it all. And I had a discussion with one other friend about numbers on the lithographs. Like for me, I absolutely do not care what number I have. Like if I've got number 1, if I got 75, if I've got the number 300 out of 300 or whatever, I don't care. As long as
I'm the same.
As long as I've got one of them, it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
Yeah, no, 100%. I feel the same way. As long as I've got one, that's all that counts.
I'm trying to remember now. It's been a while since I looked at that lithograph that Perth lithograph that I got from you. I can't even remember what the number is. Do you remember what the number is?
Oh, geez.
Because see here,
me back now. I can't remember.
No, that's okay. Look, this is one of those silly things for me that like Osaka was my first lithograph, my first concert from the tour. And I know off the top of my head that, the number of the Osaka lithograph that I have in my collection. And I don't really pay too much attention to any of the other numbers, but because that was my first one, I always remember the number that I have.
Yeah, okay. I can tell you that the new one I've got 62 anyway. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that the one
was it in the 50s? Was it?
I can't remember. I don't know. I sort of thought it was the exact opposite. I thought it was around the 80s or 90s, but it doesn't matter. All I know is that there's 100 of them that were made and numbered, and like you said, they were numbered in front of you, which is actually we'll get back to that because that's an interesting little tidbit, I think. But I'm one of the 100 owners, I suppose, around the world that's got one of those numbered lithographs from the concert, and I'm very, very happy about that.
Yep.
Now, yeah, you mentioned that you got there early, you were lined up early, and I'm guessing clearly the procedure that they go through regarding numbering these lithographs varies from concert to concert or city to city or country to country. But you're saying that they actually numbered the lithographs in front of you.
Yeah, well, there was a woman just doing it, and then I had to wait till she'd finished before I could actually purchase them. So,
see,
I can honestly say that Perth Spider was probably the first one purchased on that afternoon.
And see, I've been to quite a few concerts on this tour, and not once did they ever number them in front of me. And of course, I was like you for a lot of those concerts. I was first in line for merchandise, and I saw them. There was concerts where I got there so early that I saw them literally building the tent. Like the merchandise tent, and I never saw them numbering the lithographs at the tent. In fact, I'm trying to think. Like most of my concerts that I went to were Europe. They were all sort of sold in those cardboard envelopes, and I'm pretty sure that they were numbered. They were already numbered. Yeah, I'm not pretty sure. Definitely, they were
prior to them going in
they were numbered wherever they were printed, and then put into the envelopes and then transported already in the envelopes. So there was no interaction between the merch staff and the lithographs. But I guess that's a different situation altogether, because all of the European lithographs are printed at the exact same place, like their exact same paper, exact same handwriting. Like whoever handwrites the numbers in pencil for all of the Europe lithographs for 2017, 2018, it's the same person, it's the same handwriting. I'm guessing because they've got a fairly streamlined setup in Europe, they that's how they number them. That's how they did it. Interesting to see that they numbered it at the merchandise stand. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, look, it all worked out in the end. You got your Perth lithos. I got my Perth lithos. We've been great friends ever since, and I've even been lucky enough to visit Perth and catch up with you in person. I can't think of a better success story than that.
No, it was fantastic. Putting seeing the face to the name and meeting up. Yeah, it was a shame that it was actually just a quick visit, but that was the powers to be, and hopefully we get to connect again in the coming years.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for sharing your concert and your merch story with us. But your job isn't finished yet. We've still got to go ahead and review these Perth lithographs.
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Let's start with the Bunyip design. I don't think I loved it at first, but I'll be honest. In February of 2017, I had absolutely no plans on getting anything other than the Japan lithos. This was only a couple of weeks or whatever after the Japan concerts. I didn't have an eye for the designs at all. I just had my eye on the Japan designs. I don't think I even saw the design for Perth or many of the Australian lithographs until maybe days or weeks afterwards. I think that at that stage, I was really just browsing the old sort of 2016 designs on eBay, trying to see which ones appealed to me, see if there was any of them that I wanted to buy. Perth Bunyip didn't stand out to me immediately. However, as time went by, I really got drawn into it. Growing up in the 80s, I think that nearly any other 80s kid, I think we all went through a comic book stage. But my definition of comic books was just, the shitty 10-cent Archie and Jughead sort of stuff you'd find at yard sales and thrift stores. But those sort of cheap comic books really had a distinct feel to them, a distinct atmosphere to them, They had a pulpy kind of feel to them. The printing was kind of cheap. The paper was kind of cheap. The coloring was very basic. The colors themselves were always, they always seemed a little bit whack, a little bit off, a little bit faded. You'd always seem to have these on. I remember, you'd be reading these comic books and you'd always seem to have these off-color sunsets, that weren't quite realistic colors, or instead of like a normal blue sky, you'd have like a pale lime green sky or something like that. And so when I look at the colors that Arian Buehler used for the Bunyip design, it transports me right back to being a kid again, looking at those comic books.
Oh man, I love it. To me, it's one of my favourites. And it looks so good on the T-shirt as well.
Yeah, I'm jealous.
Definitely, I love the theme. I love the concept. It definitely struck me as soon as I seen it.
I'm still not a huge fan of the colors generally of this poster, but they feel a little sickly to me. But in terms of giving me that old school comic book vibe, they are absolutely perfect. I
love the skulls in the swamp, so to be, at the bottom.
Yeah.
It just, the whole concept just draws me, and the Guns N' Roses reminds me of the font for the Munsters. I was a fan of the Munsters from as a kid, and that's sort of what my first thing was. It was Guns N' Roses sort of drawn like the Munsters logo.
I also really like how really well done the layout is to make it look like those old school horror comics. Like if people look on the Lithorati website, the page for this particular Perth Bunyip design, you'll see that there's an old horror comic that has a very, very similar layout, and that's the homage that Arian was going for. And I think it just works so well.
Oh, it's fantastic. And like I said, to have Arian do one for Perth was amazing in itself. And he's actually gone and researched, obviously, the what the Bunyip was. It was an Aboriginal, mythical creature from the swamps and the billabongs and the creeks and stuff like that. And I think the actual word bunyip translated in Aboriginal terms is actually called devil or evil spirit. So he's actually done his research on that picture, on that design. So
talking about the Australian motif to this, I discussed with Aaron in the previous episode about how artists get a little bit more wiggle room when it comes to finding local inspiration for a poster, especially when it comes to international concerts, that they don't necessarily need to focus on something that is city specific. They can go with something that is more oriented towards the mythos or the culture of the country as a whole. The bunyip itself isn't so much a Perth related theme as it is a general Australian cultural, mythological theme.
That's right.
How do you feel about that? Like after seeing Brisbane get a fairly distinct and appropriate, surfer theme. Melbourne got one of their lithographs was Ned Kelly, which, Glen Rowan and Victoria in general, that seems very appropriate for Melbourne. You weren't too fussed when they went with something that was, I suppose, a little bit Australia generic with the bunyip?
Yeah, no, not at all. I think it, it does depict, we have quite a few swamplands and low-lying areas in Perth, and it sort of depicts that in what he's trying to represent. And no, I didn't really feel that, he needed to focus on Perth specifically.
I think it was a good choice. I think
it was.
Especially when you've got two designs for Perth, and we'll switch to the other one soon. However, I think that the choice of the bunyip for any of the Australian concerts is a good choice. And like you said, it seems to work reasonably well with Perth and the swamplands around or near Perth.
Yeah, definitely. And just to have Arian design one, it was great to have him do one for Perth. So that's
yeah.
And one thing I'd like to bring up, I don't know, it's probably just a nerdy thing as well, but with all Arian's designs, it's for me, I always take the time to try and find his signature. I don't know whether any of the other listeners out there do the same thing, but I don't know whether it's maybe a where's Wally thing, where's his signature,
Actually, I'm kicking myself for not asking that last episode. I wanted to ask him why some designs don't have his signature, because I'm like you, I'd sort of hunt around to see where his signature is, and obviously a lot of his designs do have his signature, but not all of them do.
No, that's right, yeah.
So I'd like to ask him why some of his designs end up with his signature and why some don't. The bunyip one has his signature, right?
It does, yeah.
Excellent.
It's in the swamp.
Excellent. Okay, so let's move on to the second Perth design, the redback. Again, this design didn't really do too much to spark much amazement when I first saw it. In fact, I kind of thought it seemed a little ugly to begin with. However, I see it in a much more positive light now. It's still not one of my favorites, but it has definitely mellowed in its harshness. And seeing the red foil accents in person, that's a killer aspect of it for sure. I'm not entirely convinced about the cross. Clearly, it's meant to reference the Appetite for Destruction cross, but the thing is, without having those Celtic design elements or the skulls, it kind of ends up looking a little bit more Christian than anything else to me.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree. And that's one of the things that hit me when I seen it for the first time. I thought that their skull faces would be at the back on that cross, but the same as me, Rich. It sort of grows on you as the more you look at it, and with the red foil, it just gives it another new, just brings it to life.
It makes me wonder why there are so few gimmicks like glow-in-the-dark or foil used in the Guns N' Roses lithographs. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think that it doesn't take too many of them before it feels like they get overused. I think that even if there was 10 posters during the tour that had glow-in-the-dark or foil, that might even be too much. But when you're dealing with marketing and merchandise, especially with concert posters and that sort of stuff that other bands put out with with their ridiculous amount of colorway variants and foil variants and all that sort of shit. Like you look at Pearl Jam and Metallica, each concert they might have one design, but they end up with like 6 color variants. And I think only doing a couple of posters throughout the entire tour with glow in the dark and a couple of posters with the foil gimmick, that could almost be considered conservative.
Yeah, that's right.
Nevertheless, I think it makes the foil designs extra special, and combined with there only being 100 of these made, very valuable, very hard to find lithograph.
Yep. And like I said, you've got the original, mate.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. I panicked, there was that moment there somewhere along the line where I realized, hey, I'm really, really close to having all of the Australian concert lithographs. I really need to find the spider, the Perth Spider, the Perth Redback design. Thanks to you, I was able to make that happen.
That's a pleasure, mate. To know that it's in your cabinet, nice and safe, part of the Lithorati legacy, it suits me fine.
It gets taken out from time to time, and I like to think that it's not going to waste, but I'm sure that everyone can understand that when you've got 180 of them, you can't necessarily have them all hanging up on the walls at the same time.
No, that's right.
Terry, I am absolutely over the moon that you've been able to carve out some time from your day to join us. Ever since I thought about doing this episode, I thought that it wouldn't have been complete without you joining us. So getting to hear you share your stories and your thoughts with us has really put a smile on my face and given this episode a healthy dose of enjoyment and legitimacy. Thank you.
No worries, Rich. It's been great.
Okay, so Tim, I want you to chime in on these designs. Let's hit up the Perth Bunyip first. What are your thoughts?
And I remember, when this, I'm a GNR fanatic, if that's not clear to everyone anyway. So I was, when I say following the tour, I mean, I'm not like looking for updates minute by minute. I don't have time for that, sadly. But, what I usually will do, though, is after the concert, of course, I'll check out what the set list was, right, And then before the concert, someone will usually post a picture of what the lithograph is, or maybe even if I'm really lucky, they'll post a picture of the merch booth, And so I was really excited about both these designs when I first saw them. So I was really happy to be able to get them from that website that we talked about earlier. I think this one, the Bunyip ones, it totally gives me a reminder of Tales from the Crypt comic, for anyone who's aware of that. And then, of course, there was a show, Tales from the Crypt, as well. But that's the Guns N' Roses logo at the top. I think that's where they got that from. But very, and you got the little skulls and the red, like, swampy material there that the creature's rising out of. Just the color palette, everything about this one. I'm a fan. What can I say? I know there's a lot of people out there who didn't like this one so much, but I don't really know why, I guess. Maybe you just have to be aware of what the Bunyip is to be excited about it. But I didn't know what it was until this came about, but now I do. And, I just think it's really neat. Now, the other one, the spider design, that one I was really lucky to get from that website because, as we'll get into later, maybe this one's probably fetches like the most money for any of the Australian designs. And I don't know why. I guess maybe because of the foil aspect to it. That's why. Hard to know the answer to that question. And I know, if you guys are looking at Lithorati right now, you can see the design there, of course. But again, this is an example of one that looks so much better in person. Like a lot of times when you scan these things or take pictures of them, and it's not Ricky's fault or anyone's fault, it's very hard to get that foil aspect of it to show well. I don't know why, but it's really cool looking. Trust me on that. Also, kind of a rarity about this lithograph that a lot of people probably don't really think about, but you don't see the blood logo, the GNR blood logo. You don't see that in very many lithographs, and this is one where they do have that, actually. So that's kind of rare. I thought it was kind of cool, too, on this one at the bottom. You can see where it says the word Perth for the city that's in. It's like a crazy font and color scheme that they decided to use there, but I think it's really cool, actually, and totally works with this design. So again, this is probably one of my favorite ones from this leg for sure. And again, now very hard to find. It commands a high price for sure. fitting into the Australian leg, in my opinion.
Without a doubt. And I want to just mention that one of my favorite aspects of the bunyip design is that you can see the skulls in the mud or the slime or whatever it is that is underneath the creature. I always thought that was a very, very cool, very, very subtle design element that's been sort of hidden away in the slime or the water there. It's not immediately obvious, but then when someone points out, hey, look, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 skulls in the slime, that looks pretty cool.
And I didn't even notice that fourth one until now. Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, right.
Yeah, very, very cool.
Nice, man.
And yes, look, I am not overly drawn to the Perth Spider design.
Wow, really? Yeah.
Look, I think for a couple of reasons that I mentioned when I talked with Terry about the design. Yeah, look, I feel like having the Appetite Celtic cross there without the skulls looks a bit strange. I think that if you are going to use Appetite for Destruction imagery like the cross, it should include the skulls. Seeing it in person, without a doubt, it looks 1,000 times better in person when you see the foil. It's a really good execution of using foil stamping. I really, really like how the Guns N' Roses text at the top is in red foil. It really does look beautiful, but I think that the spider's a little bit ugly and it's definitely rare, and this is the first time here. I didn't realize it until you mentioned it right now during the podcast. I did not realize that you grabbed these from the website. I didn't even know they were available on the website.
At least early on, I was fortunate enough that someone let me know about it before the hoi polloi found out, and
right.
So I was able to snag them. It worked out.
All right. Yeah, well, you win some, you lose some, right?
Absolutely, because I paid dearly for many others. So
yeah, me too. I will admit that I've got some bargains, and I've lucked out on some of the designs that ended up helping me complete my collection. But for every design that you get for cheap through the resale market, there's probably a couple of stories that you tell where you probably paid a premium for a particular design, and you don't end up being happy about it, but at the end of the day, you end up with the lithograph. So, well, what can you do? You got to be happy that at least you were able to get your hands on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that wraps up Australia. However, the leg is not over yet. We still have a couple more stops. It should really be 3 more stops, but we'll get to that story eventually. Next up, we have Singapore. I'm torn on Singapore. I think Singapore is in my top 10 lithos in terms of so much potential, but just missing the mark somehow. I think it's like there's elements of this design that I absolutely love, but then there's other things that just let me down. Like for me, it's only natural to use the imagery of the merlion. That is as iconic to Singapore as the bald eagle is to America. So that makes sense. And if you cut this design in half, if you only showed me the top half, I would think it looks amazing, including the colors. It probably reminds me a little bit of like Chinese democracy era. And I love Tim Butler's style, without a doubt. Without a doubt, he should be doing more Guns N' Roses lithographs. But as my eye travels down the page, as I see the merlion in its entirety, it just feels like a bit of a mess. I'm gonna come straight out and say it. I don't think it looks like a merlion. I think it looks like a giant shrimp. Which sounds brutal, I know, and I hate to bring it up, but that's why I'm so disappointed with the design. It starts off looking so kick-ass, and just the way it tails off, no pun intended, but the way it tails off, it just ends up looking something that got deep fried. And additionally, look, I'm not a fan of the typeface used for the text at the bottom. I think it feels kind of boring. So, yeah, look, all in all, I feel like there's a lot of lost potential in this design. which is even more of a shame because apart from one more design we'll get to soon in the next few minutes, we don't see any more of this artist. Tim Butler does one more design for the tour, and that's it. I'd really like to see him do more designs for Guns N' Roses. I'd like to see him get more chances because I'm sure, like he did Foxborough. He did the amazing killer Foxborough set, and he'll knock it out of the park 9 times out of 10 if given the opportunity. So I'd like to see him sort of come back into the mix.
I really like it a lot, actually. The colors, a big fan of. I like the clouds and the lightning like in the background. I like the bandana, and I think this is coincidental because I know the real statue obviously has these features, but it almost looks like the cornrows that Axl had, back like when he did the MTV Music Awards, right?
Yeah.
Like when he had the longer cornrows that were thicker, right?
Yeah,
it kind of looks like that, right? And so I like the roses, like the way he drew those. It's like I think it's like that kind of like scratchboard art that I like,
Yes.
And so. Yeah, and I guess that must be his signature on the very bottom right. See, like that little red X or something.
That's his little icon.
Yeah,
His logo.
So I think this one's killer. And this was one that was also not the same website, but this was available on a website as well. I can't remember what website that was now, but it wasn't the same one as the Australian stuff. But it was, and so again, fortunate that I was able to get it. Again, not that this one. Well, I don't know the last time I've even seen this for sale, and it might even still be available on some sites. I have no idea, because I'm not sure what kind of price this would command if it was sold now. But I was able to get it at a cost, so that worked out very well. But yeah, I at first I didn't like it. I'll say that, but I've come to like this one a lot.
The one thing that I thought was actually very odd about this is that, like I mentioned on the website, it's actually numbered. Like there's stamped numbers on the lithograph. However, it doesn't tell you how many they printed. It just has 281, 282, 283.
That's so weird, dude. Yeah.
And not only that, but clearly it's a black poster. And the ink that they use is like dark blue or black. And so the only way that you can see that it's there is if you sort of look at it at the right angle, so as you can see it, see the light reflect off of it. I know plenty of people that I've sort of had to explain to them, no, it's there. You just got to look at it at the right angle. Why they did it that way, I have no idea. But unlike the two other upcoming designs that we're going to look at for Thailand, it is numbered. It's just not numbered like you would expect.
Right, that's what you mean. Very interesting.
Okay, well, shall we have a look at the next design?
Sure.
Originally, I called this. Originally, I referred to this as the Bangkok Demon. However, that wasn't entirely accurate. These types of statues, I suppose, that you find in Thailand. And I'm sure I don't speak Thai, so I don't know whether the pronunciation is close or not. But the English translation is Yaksha, and it's a spiritual protective guardian statue. And I absolutely love this design. It's easily in my top 10 designs of the entire tour. I think it's a great theme for Bangkok, and it's executed really, really well. It has a very strong sort of Thailand vibe to it, and although the colors are a little too jarring for me, but it makes sense given the subject matter. Anybody who has been to Thailand or seen the photos of what a temple in Thailand looks like, they'll know that these statues and the associated buildings are very, very colorful. So the litho, has to be colorful as well. I think the typeface looks great again. I'm probably going to sound like a parrot here, but I still feel like it would have been better to use the classic sort of Guns N' Roses font for Guns N' Roses. But it looks great nonetheless. How about you, Tim? Do you have any strong feelings on the matter?
Yeah, this is a amazing, to me, design. I agree with you for the most part that I usually like when there's like like the Brisbane purple surfer lithograph when there's like 3 or 4 colors and those are the only colors
Right.
used. But I think in this case, amazing use of all the colors that they chose for this. Like you said, the font is spectacular. For this location. The only thing I might have liked a bit more in this one. And by the way, I like how the boats are in the background going around. You see that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think it would have been cooler if the roses were more fleshed out. These are kind of like, I hate to use the word. I'm not trying to insult the artist here. Like lazy roses, kind of. I'm not saying he ran out of time or he didn't want to do it, but he usually makes better looking roses than that, right?
I agree with you there. I thought maybe, and this is just me speculating without delving deep into Thai art, but I just assumed that it wasn't him being lazy. I thought maybe it's stylized, like maybe whatever temple motif or whatever that he used as a reference, maybe they were perfect circles, and he's just sort of repurposed the circle design as a rose. I'm not quite sure, and I don't know, but that's sort of what I told myself anyway, that it was done that way intentionally. I don't know.
That could definitely be the case. And I like too, like at the top, you see where the fire is, right? Like the little embers or ashes, like in the background, like those little red
Yes.
dots, and everything, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's amazing. And if everyone doesn't know already, pretty much extremely hard to find, as is the shirt, And this is another one, a weird one with the tags, by the way. So if you do come across a shirt and you're not sure if it's real or not, just reach out and ask it. We can let you know. I'm not literally impossible to find. I know there's one on eBay for like $4,000 or whatever right now, but to me, I will say it's not worth it. I'm just going to add my price range anyway for what I would pay for it. But anyway, yeah, I think Bueller knocked it out of the park on this one.
See, the problem with this particular lithograph and the other Bangkok lithograph as well is that it's extremely rare, and because the paper that it's printed on is not like the regular paper that's used for like Europe or US or Australia or like 178 other lithographs from the tour. So you've got no way, unless you have seen a real one in real life, and specifically I would also say if you don't have a real one right next to it, there is absolutely no way for you to be able to verify if what you have is real or not. I remember back in 2017, even on eBay and as well as some Japanese auction websites, there were definitely fakes that were being sold for real cheap. And nearly all of them, you could tell straight away that they were fake because they were too big and the colors were off. But the main thing was that they were the wrong size. They were printing in a like 24 by 36 or something along those lines, and clearly they were just clear copies that people were in, I guess, Indonesia or wherever they usually come from, trying to print them for a cheap profit. But because the paper is unique and not something that you can compare to any other lithograph apart from a Bangkok lithograph, because it's not numbered either, so you don't have consistencies in terms of numbering to be able to determine whether you've got something that's real or something that's fake. Yeah, I would find it very, very difficult to justify to anybody to buy one of these, like on eBay or whatever. It's just, especially for the amount of money that they're commanding, if you could find one, it's just too risky. I think I've mentioned to you that I don't know anybody else who has one of these, and the only way that I could ever possibly help someone verify whether the one that they're buying or the one that they bought is real is to literally have their version and my version side by side to be able to compare it. And so that almost automatically prohibits the ability to buy one on eBay, regardless of whether you're willing to pay the price or not. Yeah, I don't really know any other way to safeguard the purchase or the acquisition of one of these, unless I certainly couldn't verify you could send me 1,000 photos and you could send me video. You could, I don't know how, give me some sort of virtual reality thing. There's still no way that I'd be able to verify it unless it was in person, which is a shame because for such a beautiful design, it deserves to be appreciated by more people.
Yeah, absolutely.
The search goes on, I suppose.
It does for me.
As far as beautiful as this is and as rare as this is, it's not alone. Again, this leg had a lot of concerts that had more than one design, and Bangkok is yet another one that had more than one design. And let's have a look at it. Let's move on to the Bangkok Elephant.
Amazing.
Go ahead. Please go ahead.
Amazing.
Please let us hear what you have to say.
Complete. So many references to Thailand right here. I think the font is a reference to Thailand. The elephant, with the decorations and all that stuff going on. I just think, I don't know what else to say, right? It's just, simply spectacular. The only thing I would have liked about this one, on your website, well, one, if they had done the proper thing that was supposed to happen with it, where in blacklight or whatever it was, you're supposed to see the skeleton or
right.
Or whatever, right? That would have been cool. But how on your website you show a picture of what it looks like with the skeleton, and that that background image, that gray background. It would have been nicer if that was more prominent in this one here, right? Because you could barely see it there, but there is a cool gray kind of background pattern going on there. So go to Ricky's Lithorati site. You guys can see what I'm talking about. It's really nice. If I can make one more case for a variant, which I know we don't like, but if they didn't do the glow in the dark thing, how cool would it have been if they made the variant with the skeleton?
Agreed.
I think that would have been amazing. And yes, I know the shirt does work. It does glow in the dark or whatever, so you can see the skeleton. But just, and of course, of the entire leg, of all the ones that were, Singapore was available to buy online, New Zealand, Australia, but of course these were not, naturally. Right? And
those bastards.
But that would have been really nice. Yeah, I know, right? I was kind of hoping that was going to be a continued trend throughout the tour, but sadly, no.
Guns N' Roses just love to break your heart, right?
Yeah, right. And it was cool too, in the background on the bottom, those very simplified roses, right? Or I don't know if they're supposed to be roses or some other kind of flower, maybe, right?
Or they've got to be roses, right?
I would guess so, and they just did a simplified design to go with the other, the whole look of it. So yeah, stupendous, man. Right?
I didn't actually like this design when I first saw it, but the more I learned about it, the more I looked at it. At first glance, I didn't really think all too much about it, but yeah, the more I learned about it, the more I learned to love it. First and foremost, we've got the design and the associated shirt, and like you said, you do have this shirt, right?
I think I have this one. I'm pretty sure I have this one. I don't know why I can't remember right now. It's kind of.
I'm pretty sure you did, because I remembered that I think I saw the shirt on eBay, and I thought about buying it, and again, I'm not as full on about the shirts as I am the lithographs, so I'd sort of let it fall by the wayside. But yeah, the shirt glows in the dark, but unfortunately the lithograph doesn't.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame, because anybody who's seen the shirt, anybody who's seen the alternate design looks like, knows how freaking awesome it would have been if the lithograph itself was glow in the dark. I distinctly remember that one of the photos of the shirt when it was on eBay was a picture of it glowing in the dark, and I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, look, these past three lithographs, Singapore and these two Bangkok designs, I'm guessing that they had to find someone local to print them, and I'm assuming that there were limited options because they're all printed on lower quality paper, and I assume glow in the dark sort of had to fall by the wayside because of it. But still, I love the design. The elephant is, straight up the defining symbol of Thailand. I have a Thai friend actually who prefers this design over the other design, the Yaksha design, because the elephant is so revered in Thailand. To have it on the poster and to have it on the shirt is just a great choice for him. And look, the font is perfect too. The Thai language uses this absolutely surreal, beautiful orthography for text, and at least to a non-Thai speaker, it does a really good job of invoking the feel of Thai script. However, I think I have to be careful though, because for Thai speakers, they might not agree. As a counterpoint, I speak Japanese, and I sometimes get disappointed, almost offended, when I see some English fonts and typefaces that try to look Japanese, that try to look Asian. And it just ends up looking super tacky to me, and that's also kind of why I dislike some other designs. Like in the next episode, we'll be looking at designs from Europe, and there's this classic but very generic sort of Celtic or Celtic font that is just used to death for anything, even remotely Irish. Irish beer, Irish folk song CDs or whatever. They always use that same font, and I feel like using these stereotyped and overused fonts can make it feel tacky. This particular font, at least from a non-Thai speaker, I think looks really, really cool. And at least for me with this lithograph, it works and works well. I could probably do without the red frame around the design. I think that probably doesn't need to be there. I think it would look cool without, like if that was just a plain white border, I think it would have looked cooler, or maybe just no border at all, just make it all black, but still such a kick-ass design. And the alternate, like the glow-in-the-dark skeleton version, the one, the picture that I've got on the website that is also on Tim Butler's website. That was also actually that also showed up as a fake poster that you could buy online for a little while. So there was a very early during my collecting phase, I sort of panicked when I saw it, because it made me wonder, oh shit, was there like a third Bangkok design? I thought it might have been a variant or something, but no, it looks like they had just taken the image from Tim's site and sort of ran with it. And so, yeah, there's only 2 Bangkok designs, and look, I think that if they had printed the other one as well as as a alternative to not being able to print the glow in the dark feature, I think that would have been cool as well. I think the skeleton version looks kick-ass as well.
And just so that neither of us are hypocrites, because I know we both commented on Tim Butler's New Zealand design that Kiwis don't have blue feet or blue tongues. Elephants are also not blue. However, I think it totally works for this design. Because a gray elephant, or whatever you want to call it, or natural color, would have kind of been washed out maybe, or not looked as good here. So I'll allow
this blue works. This blue definitely works. This blue definitely works in this situation. It works. Whereas I still don't get the blue feet for the Kiwi. Okay, well, look, that's all the designs for this leg, but we have to talk about why we're at the end of this leg. We should have one more design, but we don't. Tim, you were following the tour sort of day to day at that stage. Maybe you could give us a run through of what unfolded, or perhaps should I say unraveled in Dubai.
Well, yeah, day of the show, I'm online trying to see, because most people will either somehow they find a picture of the lithograph and they'll post it for everyone to see, or they'll link to the artist's page, and I think, if I remember correctly, I think it was a link to Bueller's page and I think he showed the design they were going to use.
Yes, that's right.
And it was. If everyone doesn't know what I'm talking about, try to go find the image of it. But to me, had this been made into a lithograph and a shirt, it probably would have been, and I'm talking like from 2016 all the way till now, it probably would have been, for me, like a top 3 lithograph.
Wow.
The design of it. I don't know what it was about it, but it appealed to me a lot, and then, of course, for whatever reason, printing problems, who knows. Although, I gotta wonder though. Let's say there was a problem at the printing press, right? But there's not a problem at the And I don't know, maybe they make the shirts and the lithographs at the same factory. I have no idea. But let's pretend they're made at different places for a moment. And if you couldn't print the lithographs, why not still print the shirts, right? Or vice versa, for that matter. I don't know.
Yeah, look, I'm not quite sure what the story is, but yeah, the shirts weren't made either. I think that was not intentional. I think that there was a problem with sourcing that merchandise. And no, that as far as I know, anyway, that the lithographs are always made at a different location than the shirts. So whatever issue it was that caused the lithographs not to be made, clearly was a different issue to why the shirts weren't made. But yeah, it's a real shame. I think that the design is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure if you go to Aaron Bueller's Instagram, he'll still have the design up. So it was certainly approved as the design for the Dubai concert. But it never got made. It never got sold. So it ends up as a little asterisk, a little footnote for the tour. And it's not the only one. Like we'll eventually get to the others, but there was Arian Bueller got one design that approved that never got printed for some mysterious reason, and the same thing happened with Uli for one of his shows, and then Jose also got one of his designs approved, but mysteriously never made it to the printers, or never made it from the printers to the concert. It's a real shame. I don't love it as much as other people. Like I was kind of surprised when you said that it would have been top 3 for you. I know a couple of other people that absolutely love it, but for me, just didn't really appeal to me too much. I think the colors didn't really work for me. I felt that the teal sort of design, the teal color that Arian chose for it, I don't know, it looked a little bit sickly, or maybe it was just the pairing of that with the sort of dark burgundy, sort of maroon, or strange to me.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And and by the way, if you guys can't find Arian's Instagram page, or can't find it on his page, I typed in Guns Roses Dubai Lithograph 2017 into Google Images search, and you'll find it there. In case you don't know what it looks like, look for the lithograph that has like a bird of prey on it. I don't know if it's supposed to be an eagle or a hawk or whatever, but and it's like standing on top of a skull, and you guys will, or I should say standing, perched is the correct term, I think, on top of a skull. But it's really cool. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you've talked to Bueller, a bunch of times. Did you ever ask him what the deal is? Like, if it's not used, like, I don't know if they already paid him for it because they were going to use it. Like, is he allowed to, like, if a bunch of people were interested, is he allowed to print these and sell them? I can't remember. I think we talked about this before, but I can't remember what he said.
Yeah, look, he's been paid for it. The artwork is essentially owned by Guns N' Roses, but I'm pretty sure, like, it would only be a matter if he wanted to, and I'm not saying that he would want to anyway, but it would probably be just a matter of asking permission whether they could actually get printed. And that was one thing that I thought might be something that I would be worth pursuing, especially, like, for example, 2020, we're not going to be able to buy any new lithograph designs at any concerts this year by the looks of it. Now would be a good time to sort of, if you still wanted to sell merchandise to Guns N' Roses fans, now would be a good time to maybe print out the design that was approved, Uli's approved design, and Arian's approved design, and Jose's approved design that were never printed. It'd be probably pretty cool to print those and sell them on the Guns N' Roses GNR merch website or something. They've already paid for the art, so Guns N' Roses own the artwork. It would just be, I suppose, it would be up to the people who are in charge of merchandising to see whether they're interested in going to the effort of printing them. But yeah, I think it would be very cool to if they did that. In terms of Arian or the artists themselves printing it, I think that would require permission. I think probably, I don't see any reason why they couldn't do it as long as they asked Guns N' Roses for permission to do it. But look, there's how many hundreds of designs have they probably done between now and when they did that design. It's all probably it's all history now. There's not that much motivation to revisit that. It would really probably be down to only how stubborn are fans like you and me. Are we stubborn enough to be able to ask and ask frequently and ask strongly enough to get these designs done? But then, if that was something that I would be able to manage, then maybe the next step would be, well, how about let's do some designs for South America 2016? They were never done. But like I said, we're not going to get too many concerts in 2020. We got plenty of time here, and you probably got a few fans with money burning holes in their pockets. Why not? Let's sell some merch, and let's buy some merch.
Right. I mean, they clearly like to sell merchandise, but and how about instead of a Mother's Day or Father's Day GNR shirt, how about we print some of this stuff up and make some money that way, right?
I don't mind the Mother's Day shirt or the Father's Day shirt.
I think we could.
I think we could get away with not having a Guns N' Roses yo-yo or a Guns N' Roses frisbee. That is. I'll just leave it there. I think that there's some merch choices that need to be revisited. That's all.
Right.
Okay, well, look, that's essentially all the designs. Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and Eastern Asia. Let's maybe hand out some awards, and then we can call it a day. What do you think?
Right on. That sounds good.
Okay, so now we didn't do any awards for the previous episode because the Japan episode, essentially, we only reviewed 6 designs. So it didn't feel appropriate to hand out, four awards spanning 6 potential designs. So this time these awards are going to cover Japan, New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, and Thailand. All of this Japan, Oceania, I suppose, Eastern Asia. This particular leg of the tour. First up is the November Rain Award, Best Lithograph of the Leg. I don't know about you, Tim. I think this one's a no-brainer. I mean, it's got to be Kobe, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be.
No real point in dwelling on it. I think that's a given. I don't think that there's any arguing with it.
And don't be wrong, while it is a given, this leg has a lot of stellar designs. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
maybe more than
we regularly refer to this sort of period of 2017 as like the Guns N' Roses lithograph golden age. From the start of the year in Japan to probably the end of Europe. That's as stellar as the designs get. No offense to the designs that came before or after. They obviously have some great designs as well, but in terms of consistently amazing the fans, this segment really shines. So okay, well we'll lock it in. That's Kobe for the November Rain Award. No ifs, buts about it. Okay, Chinese Democracy Award. Tim, what is your most underrated lithograph from this leg of the tour?
In my opinion, and again, hard call, but I'm going to say the Saitama Blue Dragon.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just, I don't know why people think, and again, we've talked about this in that last podcast, but why people didn't go more crazy for these designs when they came out. The blue one and the green one, but I prefer the blue one over the green one. But both of them are just, I think, amazing. And I don't know why. Again, everyone's different strokes for different folks, but for me, yeah. And I think it's very underrated, and I think they'll be more appreciated in time.
Yeah, I was really surprised when you mentioned your your appreciation for those designs. That they certainly didn't appeal to me anywhere nearly as much as a lot of the other designs. And so, yeah, as far as from your perspective, at least, they're certainly underrated, because the amount of people out there that adore them as much as you do is probably pretty sparse.
Right.
For me, the most underrated lithograph, I'm probably going to go with the Melbourne Tiger. I think that for a few reasons, it doesn't get talked about as much as I think it deserves. I think simply the fact that it's rare. Like off the top of my head, I think they made 200. I gotta double check that, but
150.
Say 150. I think that the rarity and it being Australia in general, the design was not really broadcast all too much. So I don't think that there's too many people out there, comparatively speaking, who have seen it. And so it doesn't get too much love. And then the fact that not too many of them showed up on the resale market, even straight after the concert or a long time after the concert, doesn't matter. There really hasn't been too many for people to buy. And so for me, that is extremely underrated. It's a beautiful lithograph, and it deserves to be appreciated more. It deserves to be talked about more. It deserves to be seen by a lot more people.
Right on.
Okay. Swimming with Dolphins Award. Tim, what would you consider to be the strangest lithograph from this particular leg?
Wow. Well, I think we've definitely narrowed it down to Australia, at the very least, and New Zealand, I should say. It's strangest one. Is it going to be? It's got to be Wellington Kiwi, right? I mean,
oh my goodness! I'm glad that you said that, because that's exactly what I was going to go with. Like I thought that I know a lot of my friends would probably pick the Redhead, Adelaide Redhead. But that's got a story behind it. Like, that now that we've got that information about it from the artist, it makes a lot more sense. But Wellington Kiwi, that's still, there's a whole bunch of question marks on that one.
Exactly. It's strange because of the color of the feet and the tongue. The bones are sticking out inside of the body, like the lake or wherever the hell it is. And that's why it's the strangest, in my opinion. Yeah. Right.
Oh no, I'm so glad that we agree on that. That one, I was a little bit worried that mine would come right out of left field, but okay. I'm glad we arrived at the same location on that one. Okay, last is the Bad Obsession Award. Tim, what is your favorite lithograph that other people just don't like?
Well, I don't want to use the Saitama Blue Dragon again, although that would make sense in that category as well. But
you can if you want. There's no rules here.
That's true. But you know what? I'll go with the Singapore one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and I should say I'm presupposing here. I haven't talked to as many people as you've probably talked to about lithographs, so I don't really know too many people's opinions on things. But I think this one was not a favorite of very many people out there. But for me, I think it fits this category well.
I don't think I've ever met anybody who considers it one of their favorites. So it certainly makes sense if it's a good design, but doesn't show up on too many people's favorites lists, doesn't show up on too many people's want lists. That sounds like the exact sort of thing that ends up being a Bad Obsession Award winner. For me, it is Wellington Maori. I have constantly over the years praised it. I love it to bits, but no matter how many times I talk about it, no one ever backs me up. I don't think anyone hates it. I just don't think that anyone really likes it. It's not going to show up on anybody's top 10 list. And I think that's a real shame, because it's certainly in my top 10 list. I think, especially considering how it's not particularly rare, it's not particularly valuable, it's not particularly scarce, all of these things considered, and the fact that it's still, in my top 10, I love it, and other people don't. And, I think it deserves a little bit more respect, don't you think?
Yeah, sure. That one does. Absolutely, that one does.
Yeah, okay, so I think we're done here. I think we've managed to slog through another fairly hefty leg with a reasonable amount of lithographs. Yeah, I think we should probably call it quits here and maybe restock and reload for the next episode. I'm not too sure when we'll get around to making it. However, the next one's going to be absolutely magnificent. I think that this is the Europe 2017 leg of lithographs. Probably is the single leg of the tour that created this entire hype. I know that 2016 lithographs for the U.S. were also very, certainly instrumental. But in terms of like making it from a short, I suppose, 3-4 month craze 3-month craze in the U.S., or probably not 3 months craze, probably 6-month craze in the U.S. in 2016. This is probably what's perpetuated this obsession or this love for the lithographs over multiple years.
Yeah, I mean, who could blame you? Look at this, just the first 4 in Europe right off the bat.
I mean, oh man, and we'll deal. There's a whole bunch of things that we can say about Europe. I don't want to spoil any of it right now. People just have to tune in to the next episode.
Undoubtedly.
Thanks a lot, Tim. We're done here. Please take care and save your voice for our next marathon session. Hopefully meet all of our listeners or viewers, all of our followers right back here again soon enough.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me again. It was great, and hopefully everyone out there enjoyed it. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, something we missed, maybe a cool story about how you acquire your lithographs, let us know in the comments section, man. Have a good one. Stay safe.
If you have a Brisbane Purple Surfer shirt, if you have a Bangkok lithograph, please hit us up.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.